Aita for not letting my mother's husband come to my wedding. I, 29F, have been with my partner, 32M. For 7 years we have been back and forth whether we want a big wedding or if we just elope. We have decided to have a wedding as we are both only children, so it's our parents' only change to see their kids get married. One of the big reasons we wanted to elope was both our families are broken and not everyone gets along. It's our day and we really didn't want the drama that our families might bring. I sent out the invites about 2 months ago, and my mother called me as soon as she got it to let me I made a mistake as her invite only had her name and a note saying strictly no +1. She flipped her lip that her husband wasn't invited as they have been married for almost 25 years. A bit of backstory: I am an only child and he doesn't have kids. They got together when I was around 3 years old. When I was 8 years old he started abusing me. This went on until I left home at 15 years old to live with my great aunt. While I didn't tell anyone at the time due to fear of him, I have since told my great aunt. She has been super supportive and helped me seek help for this. When my mother was made aware of this, she instantly defended him and took his word that he never touched me. While I wasn't surprised by this, appearances mean a lot to her. It hurt me deeply. We had a rocky relationship for a few years after because of this. She has made it clear that she is sticking by him and will defend him if I ever took it further. Despite this, we have come a long way to repair the relationship we once had, and I want my mother at my wedding. For the past month I have been getting calls left, right and center from other family members telling me how rude it is that I haven't invited the man who raised me, and that he is very upset he can't walk me down the aisle. I don't know what to say to them other than it's a small wedding and we only have limited spots. I don't want to tell anyone the real reason as it overshadowed the wedding, and that's all they will be thinking about. They are making me feel guilty and like I've done the wrong thing. They all think I should have invited him. I can understand from their point of view it would be strange as they don't know about anything. My fiancé and great aunt fully supports me not wanting him there, but I still feel like an A*** hole for not inviting him. Aita. Top comments. Commenter 1, obviously, if people are approaching you about it, your mother's been complaining. I would just let her know she can either come or stay home because her husband wasn't invited. Those are her choices, but if she keeps dragging other family into it, you will be forced to tell them exactly why you didn't invite him. Just tell her I better not be hearing from any more family members about it or we're gonna have a big problem and I'll start explaining why. Commenter 2, NTA. I just tell the family that are pressuring you what you said here. That you can't imagine your abuser being a part of the happiest day of your life. As you can now openly speak about it and are strong. Also for your mom, just tell her the age-old rule. It's an invite, not a summons. She doesn't have to go if she doesn't want to, but that he will not be allowed in, and if she does show up with him that will be the end of your relationship. If the venue has a wedding planning team security, that if he tries to show up he will not be allowed in and escorted off the property. Commenter 3, NTA. But at this point I'd be uninviting mom and everyone taking her side, and changing the venue so she can't crash the event. She refuses to believe you were abused and insists that you have your abuser at your wedding. That is not acceptable. Update. After reading so many comments about her bad behavior and so many people saying they would be NC and wouldn't have her at the wedding, I really took it all on board and called her. I asked her to really think about it, think about what he did to me, how it made me feel, and ask why she thought I would want him at my wedding. I told her at this point I don't want her to attend and told her to stop calling people and complaining about it. I told her if I get more calls or texts or if she causes any more drama about being uninvited, I would tell the whole family what he did to me for 7 years under her roof and how she didn't do a thing to stop him or protect me. She instantly got defensive and lost her shit at me over the phone. I told her I'm not getting into it over the phone and she needs to respect my wishes. Now overnight, I've had almost 20 family members message me telling me they are no longer attending my wedding and that I am disgusting and a vile mentally ill girl for making up such nasty and revolting lies about MH. I called my aunt, mother's sister, and when she finally agreed to talk to me, she told me my mother called her last night in tears. She was apparently beside herself. The short version was basically I was jealous of him and how much attention my mother gave him. I was set on ruining him as a person and was going to make up lies about him abusing me just to get my own way. I was gobsmacked. I literally sat on the phone in shock for a few minutes while she continued to tell me what my mother said. She apparently also told her the reason I left home so young was because I hated MH making me do my chores. She even told her that at 15, just before I left, that I tried to seduce him to persuade him into giving me a car, and he turned me down, which made me angry. That's why I left. I told my aunt that was simply not true. It was so far from the truth. I asked her to call and talk to my great aunt, and she can tell her what really happened. When I told her about the abuse, my aunt said she is now confused and doesn't know who to believe. I am gutted and completely embarrassed. If this is what she has told my aunt, what has she told everyone else? How do I face this? I feel like that vulnerable little girl all over again. My fiancé is a little overwhelmed with how everything is unfolding but still been really supportive. We have decided to cancel the wedding despite having paid deposits for almost everything and elope with just his immediate family, my great aunt, and a few close friends. Top comments. Commenter 1. You need to send one message to everyone who has declined and tell them that your mother threatened to smear you if you revealed what her husband did to you and you can see that she did. Tell them you are sorry they were so gullible that they would believe her without talking to your great aunt who took you in. Then block them all. Commenter 2. When you send a message or email to cancel, write why you are canceling. Lay out the abuse and what happened when you confronted your mom about SD not going to your wedding. You can say anyone who has doubts can contact your great aunt who has known truth for years, but ultimately it's up to them to decide who to believe. Anyone who doesn't believe you, doesn't need to be in your life anymore. I'm sorry you are having to go through this. It sounds like you are better off removing these toxic people from your life. The greatest insult to abusers is to forget about them and live your life happily. Commenter 3. I hope they get all that's coming to them. Your mom is a vile POS, and I truly hope your great aunt puts it all out there. Rest. Get some emotional distance. Then, focus on how much fun you can make eloping with the truly important people. Sorry your family sucks, but at least you now have control over what you do, and you exerted it. Update 2. Shit has hit the fan big time. I've had a few family members reach out to me and turns out he assaulted 2 of my older cousins before me, and 1 since. As awful as it sounds, and I know it sounds awful and I don't meant it that way, but I'm glad I'm not alone. Now it's not just me trying to tell my family. Our experiences are all pretty similar. We were all too scared to come forward and say anything because he threatened to hurt us and our families. We all thought we were the only one. He always said we were his special one. I know how silly it sounds now, but as a kid living with it you believe, and as you grow up you hope he isn't hurt others. We are in the process of talking to everyone in the family to seeing if he hurt anyone else. Once the family heard about the other girls coming forward, everything became clear to them. They realized my mother was lying to protect him and have rallied around us all. They have all been so apologetic for believing my mother and not seeing it sooner. My MH on the other hand showed up at my house. I have no clue how he got my address as mother doesn't even have it. He was trying to threaten me into staying quiet and not go to the police. I obviously didn't answer the door and asked him to leave. I called my partner to come home quickly and I also called the police. He broke into my house while I was on the phone to the dispatcher and started yelling at me, hitting me, and trying to choke me. Thankfully help arrived within about 10 minutes and the self-defense classes I've taken helped a little bit. As scary as it all was, I feel like it's finally over, if that makes sense. He is being charged and still in lockup for break and enter and assault. The 4 of us girls all made statements about the abuse and the police are opening an investigation. What a roller coaster this week has been. Honestly, I didn't think it was possible to feel everything I'm feeling. At the start of the week we were having a wedding and no one really knew about the abuse, to wedding cancelled and everything thinking I'm making things up, to everything unfolding with MH and my cousins, and now we have decided to go ahead with the wedding but change it to be more about us and for us, not our families. Obviously I know we still have a long road ahead of us, but for now it's over. Time to focus on the wedding and the people who matter most. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I knew you weren't the only victim. I am so glad others spoke up. Your mother is truly evil. Commenter 2. OP, you did well. He finally will be charged and sent to the jail as he should have been all this years. Also your mother for being his sidekick by defending him knowing what he did. You need seriously cut your mom, because she failed as a mother to protect her daughter and nieces, as well she protect and cover this monster actions. Hope he stays in jail for a long run. Now like you told, it is time to concentrate on going and happy things, and that is your wedding. Congratulations and hope everything goes well. May I ask what the reaction of your mother was after the arrest? OOP responds on if this is being the final update. This is definitely the last update. I wasn't planning on updating at all, but so much happened and it felt good getting it out. Time to focus on the wedding and putting this all behind us. Stories number 2. Aita for choosing to live with my ex-stepmom instead of my dad after their divorce. I, 18F, are about to graduate high school and things have been weird at home for a while, but now everything's kind of blown up and I'm getting a lot of mixed reactions, so I figured I'd post here. My dad remarried when I was 14. His new wife had 2 kids from a previous marriage who were younger than me. From the start, she was polite but cold. Never rude, but definitely distant. She always seemed more relaxed and affectionate with her kids, which hurt, but I figured maybe that was just natural. But whenever I came in the room she stopped laughing and looked at me as if I was a danger of hurting her or her children. For years I felt like I was walking on eggshells around her. I tried being friendly, helping out with her kids, giving her space, etc., but it never felt like I was truly welcome in my own home. It hurt, but I got used to it. But something changed this past year. I don't know exactly what triggered it, but stepmom started acting different. More present. Kinder. She started checking in on me, inviting me to sit with her and her kids more, even standing up for me when my dad would snap or criticize me. And that's when things started to click between us. Turns out, my dad had told stepmom a lot of stuff about me when they first got together, things like I was manipulative, dishonest, moody, lazy, emotionally unstable. Basically made me sound like some troubled, dramatic teenager who couldn't be trusted. I found this out because I overheard them fight about it. She apologized. Said she realized how wrong she'd been and how my dad was constantly nitpicking, belittling, and controlling, and how she never saw it clearly until she started watching how he treated me versus everyone else. They divorced about 2 months ago. My dad expected me to stay with him. Legally I could do whatever since I'm 18. But I told him I wanted to live with stepmom. It caused a whole explosion. He said I was choosing a woman who never even wanted me. That I was turning my back on my real family. His parents, my grandparents, called me ungrateful. Even a few family friends said I was being disloyal and just trying to hurt him. But here's the thing, Dana does want me now. She's apologized, made an effort, and treats me like a human being. She is the one coming to visit my school competitions and helps me whenever I ask her. My dad hasn't taken a real interest in me in years. She listens. She makes space for me. She showed me what it feels like to be safe. So, Aita for choosing to live with my former stepmom instead of my dad. Comments. Commenter 1. Turns out, my dad had told stepmom a lot of stuff about me when they first got together, things like I was manipulative, dishonest, moody, lazy, and emotionally unstable. The thing I don't get is, why did it take her 3 years to figure out this wasn't true when you all lived together? If all those things are lies and she lived with you, wouldn't she notice it's untrue within months? Reply. Throughout most of my high school time I went to a boarding school. I could have come home at the weekends, but because I did feel that unwelcomed at home, I stayed there for most of the year. I only came home at holidays. My senior year, however, I couldn't go back, because my father thought the boarding school would only make me entitled. That I would think of myself better than the rest of the family. But that wasn't true at all. How would he know? My father hasn't taken an interest in me in years. I bet he doesn't even know what sport I like to play or the name of my best friend. He only started to pretend to care when I chose to live with stepmom. Commenter 2. NTA he married a woman and immediately turned her against you for absolutely no reason. Ensuring that you would have little to no relationship with the woman he chose to be your stepmother. Get away from him and stay away from him as far as I'm concerned. Update. Hi again. I honestly didn't expect my post to get the attention it did, but thank you to everyone who offered support, advice, or even just validation. Reading your comments helped me feel a little less alone in all of this. I wanted to give an update, especially since some people asked if my dad ever tried to explain himself. He did. After I moved in with my ex-stepmom, things were quiet for a few weeks. Then, last week my dad asked to meet. I agreed, hoping maybe this would be a turning point, that he'd acknowledge the way he treated me and maybe even apologize. But instead, I got a whole different kind of explanation. He told me that he was still in love with my mom, who passed away when I was 10, and that he had never truly moved on. He said that after she died, he felt like he lost not just his wife, but a piece of himself. He admitted that he married stepmom not out of love, but because he thought building a new family would help him fill the void. But it didn't, and instead, he grew bitter and angry, and started taking it out on everyone. On stepmom. On her kids. On me. And then he said something that completely shattered me. He said he never wanted her to bond with me, because if she did, it would feel like my mom was being erased. That he couldn't handle the idea of me loving someone else in a mother role. That every time he saw stepmom and I getting along, it felt like I was letting go of my mom and replacing her, which is just not true. I will always love my mom. Nothing could ever change that. But I also deserve to have people in my life who care about me now. People who show it. Stepmom has done that. She's trying, and she's here. When I asked him if he realized how much he'd hurt me, how he'd changed from the dad I remembered, he didn't deny it. But he also didn't apologize. He just said he was dealing with his grief the only way he knew how, and that I should respect that. He told me stepmom was taking me away from him, and that I had replaced my mom. He said, word for word, you chose her over your real mother's memory. I walked out. I don't think I will talk to him again unless he does apologize and changes his ways. I'm still processing all of this. I'm trying to hold space for the version of my dad who was kind, who tucked me in at night and made waffles on Saturdays. But I'm also not going to pretend the last few years didn't happen. Grief isn't an excuse for cruelty. And choosing peace and love now isn't a betrayal of the past. Stepmom's not perfect, but she's trying, and for now, this feels like the healthiest place for me to be. We're rebuilding something strange and new, but it feels more real than anything I've had in years. I don't know what the future holds with my dad. But I know this, I'm allowed to be loved. And I'm allowed to choose it, wherever I find it. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA. Grief isn't an excuse for cruelty and choosing peace and love now isn't a betrayal of the past. You couldn't have put better, what a shitty father. Commenter 2. There is a really great scene in Clueless where Cher complains about her annoying ex-stepbrother still hanging around and spending time with her father, and her father says, "You divorce a spouse. You don't divorce kids. Choose the parent and home that is best for you in the short and long term." Commenter 3. Stepmom didn't replace your mom. Sounds like she replaced your dad. Commenter 4. My useless deadbeat dad once argued to my ex-stepmother, now second mother, that she was trying to replace him. She replied back in the softness of voice, "That seat was empty. Good luck, OP. Know that you are not alone. Your bio mom would be proud of you and you stepmom." Stories number 3. In-laws straining my marriage, but it's my fault apparently. First post, so bear with me. About a year ago, me, 28F, and my husband, 30M, allowed my BL, 19M, to move in with us to get him out of a rough situation and help him start adulting. This was about May of last year. I agreed to have him move in with the promise from BIL and husband that it was only going to be a couple of months until BIL found a roommate to move out with. He is also to pay some rent monthly as he has a full-time job now, keep his area clean, and help out around the house. Keep in mind I have 2 children under the age of 5 and also work, and I'm still the housekeeper. Cleaning, cooking food, etc. While my husband also works about 60 hours a week. Fast forward those couple of months, no luck on finding a roommate. BL still living with us. Okay, he's young. I'm just gonna give him some more time to figure this out. I'm trying to be understanding and gracious, as I also had some help getting on my feet at this age. I have confronted BL a few times asking, "So how is the roommate search going? You found an apartment yet?" only to be answered with shrugs and, "I don't know." I will say, at this point I'm starting to feel in the dark with what is actually going on. As in, is there even a plan of him moving out? Is he even looking for a roommate or an apartment? Husband says just give him more time and that he's working on it. Frustrated, it's Christmas time now and he's requesting to have his girlfriend of 2 years, who lives out of state, to move in too with the promise that she has a job and they will move out in 1 month. I tell my husband that I'm not comfortable with it, as BIL was not supposed to be here at this time in the first place. Husband says I'm overreacting and starts making comments of making me sound like I don't care about his family. Angry, I just shut down and keep my mouth shut to avoid the argument. My next mistake. Girlfriend moves in and surprise, doesn't have a job and claims she's been looking for one for 3 months now since living under my roof. Fast forward to now. Rent is not being paid anymore, the cleaning of their own areas have stopped, and there has been absolutely no trying to find a way to move out of my home. I've quit asking bail questions to keep myself from being furious and directed the questions towards my husband. At this point I'm done trusting that my husband has any plan or control in this whole situation, which is driving me insane. Anytime I bring it up to my husband, I'm met with hostility and accusations of just wanting to throw his family out on the street and that I shouldn't be upset with this because I agreed to it. Agreed to what? Yes, I agreed to BL moving in for a couple of months. Yes, I graciously gave him extra time to figure things out. At this point I no longer feel comfortable in my own home and every day me and my husband argue about it, which always turn into very ugly outcomes. We don't even sleep in the same bed anymore. I'm annoyed that I've been conned into taking on 2 grown adults, while trying to raise my own family. I'm angry that I'm being made out to be the bad guy when all I wanted was to be helpful. I don't know what to do anymore. I guess my main question to the Reddit world is, Aita, because I let this all happen in the first place. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, but that sounds like a terrible situation. Something you may not have considered, if the GF or BL go the legal route, because they have been there that long they could actually fight being evicted. Your husband is the AH in this case. Tell him he has to clean up their area, make their dinner, etc. Any food they eat should come out of his spending money. Commenter 2. You have a DH problem, get into marriage counseling, find alternate housing for you and the kids. Now, if counseling doesn't work out, take your kids and visit family or friends for a couple of weeks and let him sort it out with his brother, and then tell him the condition that you will return home is when they are gone or you won't return and you can divorce. Update. BL, 19M, and his GF has overstayed their welcome in my, 28F, and my husband's, 30M, home. 10 plus months for the BIL and 3 plus months for the GF. I was conned into the whole situation when both husband and BL said it would only be for a couple months, which was last May. Rent has stopped being paid, cleaning of their own areas stopped, and there has been no attempt of them to leave my home. I'm uncomfortable in my own home, and my husband absolutely blows up at me anytime I bring it up, and accuses me of hating his family and wanting to throw them out on the street. Aita, first I would like to say thank you all for the different perspectives. Most of all the responses said I should just kick all 3 of them out and say good riddance. I will say, some of the responses gave me a good little laugh in this extremely frustrating situation, so thank you for that too. Taking everything into consideration, I gave my husband an ultimatum last night and I'm sticking to it. They need to be gone by June 1st, with all rent paid according to how I had laid it out, or else I'm moving out with the kids into an apartment. I'm also not cooking for them, just enough for me and the kids. All laundry detergents and toiletries will be kept in my closet and internet passwords will be changed. Now, before I get, 2 months is too much time for them, hear me out. This is also time for me to get my ducks in a row should I actually be moving out. Which, in theory, I'll know by mid-May if they aren't moving out if they don't have anything lined up by then. I really do doubt my husband is wanting this to actually happen, me and the kids moving out, but I wouldn't put it past him thinking that I'm bluffing. All in all, I would hope it doesn't have to come to that point. I am happy to learn though after sketching a quick budget, that I would be able to support me and both of my children with my own income if worst came to worst. Thanks again. Comments. Commenter 1. Based on how your husband has dealt with this situation, I hope he is not calling your bluff, but be ready. Good luck. Commenter 2. Oh, he absolutely is, and then he'll have shocked Pikachu face when she leaves. Commenter 3. It was all so sudden and he had no idea why. Commenter 4. Ah yes, the good old, it came out of nowhere, shtick. Update. BL, 19M, has overstayed his welcome at my, 28F, home for a year now. Moved in his GF, was not paying rent. GF went 3 months under my roof with no job and neither one of them contributing to the house. I work, have 2 kids under the age of 5, and at my wit's end. My husband, 30M, yells at me constantly for wanting to kick them out, and it's not that bad. Aita. So here we are, getting really close to June 1st, and yes, they are still living in my house. Here's where things are getting gray for me and need all the advice possible. I recently got diagnosed with stage 2 hypertension and working on getting that under control. I have chronic anxiety and experience rolling panic attacks that last for up to a week, sometimes twice a year. Since my last post I had a 4-day episode, as well as the diagnosis. Doc says I'm far too young to have a diastolic pressure chilling at 97 and will be dead in 15 years if I don't make changes now. Since then, I have been stepping back and focusing on me. Getting healthy, losing weight, etc. With that said, my husband has been a lot nicer to me and helping out around the house so I can focus on myself and my kids. The constant shouting has basically stopped, the gaslighting is non-existent, and for once I actually feel confident about my future. Since the diagnosis, the energy in my house has completely changed, and what I feel may be for the better. BIL's girlfriend has gotten a full-time job at the end of last month and to my surprise, has been sticking to it. Also, rent has been paid since me laying down the law back in March. They have picked up the cleaning routine, buy their own groceries, and actually seem to be doing well for themselves. Shoot, the GF has even been helping me out with the kids if I seem too stressed. They are actively looking at apartments and attempting to move out. But, it's looking like they are wanting to push out the June 1st deadline. Would I be showing myself as a doormat if I let them have a couple more weeks? Or is it my obligation to follow through with the deadline I gave in the beginning? I have a feeling my husband did have a lot to do with them getting their sh*t together, which I'm grateful for. Kinda sucks that I have to risk a stroke in order to get through to him though. That's another topic for a different day I think. Next morning update. I put my kids down for the night last night and I brought the deadline up to my husband again. I calmly asked, hey, June 1st is coming up, any progress? No. Are you going to talk to them about it? No. Then he flipped. Really bad. Starting yelling at me at the top of his lungs. I told him we had an agreement and then he basically told me to hell with the agreement. I lost it, guys. I told him it's obvious he doesn't care about me or my feelings and that he's welcome to leave with them too. He says, okay, tell me when you want me out. I told him June 1st was already the date. He shut down, stopped talking. He stormed out the door. Said he wasn't going to fight about it tonight. I tried calling and messaging him, no response. He turned off his location. He came back late last night, doesn't say a word. Wakes up this morning and then tries to small talk with me. Like nothing happened. I ignored it all. Not because I'm trying to be petty, but because I genuinely don't know how to process this. My oldest wakes up today and asks, why is daddy not staying at our house anymore? So knowing that my 4-year-old heard all of this commotion is devastating me. Comments. Commenter 1. Please don't let them stay for a couple more weeks because it won't be a couple more weeks. The reason they're all being nice now is because you got a health scare. Be honest with yourself and ask yourself if this change would have happened if you didn't need to focus on yourself more. Once you get better, or see that you look better regardless of how you're truly feeling, they'll go back to the old ways. Stick to the June 1st deadline, and now you have even more reason, although you didn't need one before, to not want to have to deal with other people at home, where it should be your safe space to relax and not worry about whether they'll keep pretending to be nice or how long it's gonna last. I hope you get better and I truly wish you all the best. Reply, thank you for the advice, I put an update in the post. Last night didn't go well at all. Looks like I may be a single mom now. Looking back, I definitely see where I was putting myself last to save the peace, but for what? My kids need me alive and happy. If anyone is going to be put first over myself, it's going to be my kids. Period. Point blank. Commenter 2. I doubt they are going to leave on June 1st. Do you have anywhere to go? Your parents. You should be ready to move if they don't. Reply, my parents are close in proximity to me and they know everything that's going on and are ready for me and my kids to move in at moment's notice if needed. I'll be working on eviction notices, because the house is in my name. I know that I said in previous posts that I was going to move out, but I decided it's not my place to leave this house. It's theirs. Stories number 4. My GF's girl nights outs included her friends' SOs. I feel left out. My GF of nearly 3 years has always had her girl nights out, every 2 to 3 weeks or so, which is perfectly fine because I also had nights where I did stuff with my friends as well. We're all in our mid to late 20s BTW. But yesterday, while my GF's friend and her BF hung out at our place, the BF referenced something that happened on Saturday, which was her last night out. I was confused and after a bit of probing found out that not only is he a regular on these nights outs, but her other 2 friends bring their own BFS along as well. It's just me who has never been asked, nor even informed that these girl nights out weren't the just need to be with my girls for a bit relaxing nights as she used to claim. Literally a few weeks ago we talked about her upcoming night out with them and she told me something like, sometimes I just really need to be just with the girls. Of course I asked her once we were alone why she's never brought it up or why I have never been invited, but she just kept claiming that the guys weren't always invited, and most of the time they just tagged along. Honestly, I feel pretty alone and disrespected right now. Plus even now, almost 3 years later I feel like I am barely in her friend group. I feel like if they were all meeting up anyway, I could have been there and maybe have become friends with them as well. Unlike her, I do invite my GF around to do stuff with my own set of friends a lot. Now it feels like it wasn't just the girls she wanted to see, but rather that she just really didn't want to spend that time with me, while her friends had no problem spending their time together with their BFS. I don't really know what to think or what to do. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I think you are entitled to feel bad. She has been masking going out with her friends under girls' night. There is nothing wrong with her wanting to go out without you, but the lying part makes it weird and borderline disrespectful. I don't think this is an isolated incident, and you feel hurt because there have been other issues, right? Reply. I don't really know. I mean, everyone has their preferences and their own character. She's always been a bit more cold in the way she acts than my previous partners, but I never thought that she'd feel like she needed this much of a break from me and the relationship as a whole. As I said in my post, I wouldn't have had an issue at all if this was just a girls' night out and if she did really need to have a bit of a break. But she was literally meeting up with her group of friends and their boyfriends. I genuinely can't imagine going out with my extended friend group twice in a row without even asking my GF to be there with me. More often than not she comes with me, so I just don't really understand why she'd want to separate me from her side of friends like that. I just don't know how to feel right now. Commenter 2. You feel hurt, and that's natural, there is nothing wrong with that. When you talk to her I'd suggest to focus on the why lie? Why keep you apart from the group? Why the need for a break? This issue overall can be the tip of an iceberg of something much bigger hurting your relationship. Sure, it could be she is just an ass, but in that case there is not much you can do. Commenter 3. Straight up just confront her with the why did I have to find this out? Why wasn't I informed? Why did I have to probe about the girls' nights out? It could be nothing. Probably is, but she needs to understand that's not fair to you. Make it clear that it's not a fight and you just want to clear the air. She's gonna get offended though. People are so used to people being fake that speaking directly is seen as aggressive. I wish you luck fam and stay strong my brother, and remember that why you are the victim. Don't play the victim card, but keep in mind that you did nothing wrong and you're just wanting to know what you don't know, and this is where it could get hairy. What's most important is why it took so long for you to know these things. Oh hell nah dude, I'm the jealous type and I would have made a scene. That's probably why I'm single, so take it with a grain of salt. Reply. Maybe I should have properly confronted her. It was already late, so all we did was me asking it and her hand waving me away more or less. I will talk to her again. This is really bothering me if I'm being honest. I love her so much and I always try to include her and basically just spent more time with her. Finding out that she has been keeping me away from these nights out for whatever reason has really hurt me. All I can think of is this: if she really needs such a break from me and the relationship, while her friends clearly don't, then is it even a relationship she's happy in? Update. Hey, so first of all, thank you all for your comments. I couldn't reply to them all due to the thread being locked. I read through them all and I did what I probably should have done directly when it first happened. I went and talked to her. To make a long story short, there were never any girls' nights out. These were always simple nights out with her friend group. So why wasn't I invited? Because they all hate my guts due to her own fault, according to her. My GF said back when we started dating she'd always vent to them about me. All these small issues we fixed between her nights out and literally never talked about again was all her friends group knew about me. Issue after issue, but never how we fixed it together as well. She realized that as well and stopped venting about me, but at that point it was, according to her, too late. They'd always joke about me behind their backs. The feeling I had of being ostracized on the rare occasions where one of her friends would hang out at our place wasn't just a feeling after all. They do really hate me. I simply wanted to know why she was okay with that and why she wouldn't stand up for our relationship. She said she wasn't okay with that, but what could she do? Her friends would have shittled her if she said anything. Not only have that, but her friends had me as the butt of all their jokes. In their minds I'm an impotent buffoon. All these fucking side eyes I got when I would talk to any of them wasn't just in my imagination. I'd talk to my GF back then and she'd always say, "It's just in your head." TBH, it made me mad that she was trying to be the victim in this situation and why, but finding out that they despise me and my supposed to be GF is tolerating it and wouldn't defend me made me really, really upset. If I'm being honest, at this point I kind of mentally checked out and I already knew that I won't allow this disrespect and that this relationship is already through. Yet there is so much I just don't understand. So I asked her simply, why? Why would you be okay with any of that, and why wouldn't you either stop being friends or literally demanding them to stop talking like that about us and about me? All she said was something like, "You know how I am, I don't really like being the center of attention." I just kept quiet. Finally I just asked her if anything would change going forward and she said she could try talking to them individually, but she said it in such a timid way that I don't think for a second she actually meant it. Anyway, long story short, I broke up with her. It sucks and I feel really badly about myself right now. I've always tried to be the best version of myself in this relationship. But knowing that there is a whole group of people out there who literally hate me, and the one person who is supposed to love and defend me no matter what, yet didn't, kind of sucks. TLDR, we talked, found out there were no nights out, her friend group hate me and she tolerated and wouldn't even entertain the thought of changing anything about it. I broke up with her. Final comments. Commenter 1. So I gotta ask, what was her reaction to being broken up with? Reply. She cried and begged me not to, but as I said above, I asked her if anything at all would change. But even then she wouldn't budge. I was 99% sure I was going to end that talk broken up with her, but after seeing her, in action in the actual talk just solidified it so much more. She left for her BFF's apartment and hasn't messaged me yet. But TBH, there isn't really anything she could say to change my mind by now. I loved and still do love her a lot, but I'm still trying to process her friends more or less bullying me indirectly and her literally just being okay with it. This isn't the kind of person I thought she'd be, nor the kind of person I want in my life. Commenter 2. It isn't just her friends though, she wasn't just okay with it as an observer. SHE said all those terrible things about you to them. SHE made them think all this garbage. SHE was the one badmouthing you and making you the butt of the joke. Only after she had laid down all that groundwork did she stop to think how things had become. And she lied to you many times, and knowingly gaslight you. You deserve so much better. I hope you are able to find someone who is more respectful of you in the future. Her character flaws finally revealed themselves, and she was not a great partner to you. I am sorry. Stories number 5. Aita for not helping my dad's pregnant girlfriend and telling her to fuck off when she asked. My mom died 14 months ago and shit's been tough since. I, 16F, always had a great relationship with my dad before, but lately it's been pretty awful. 4 months ago my dad brought this woman home, told me she was his girlfriend and that she was pregnant and moving in with us. This was 9 months after my mom died. I didn't really know what to say at first. He was scrambling to say stuff, but I don't really remember what he said. But when I did speak, I was bitter and I told him I guess he found a great way to tell me he never loved my mom and was over her. I said that because he had always talked about people moving on within like 2 years of their husband or wife dying as never really loving them and got over them super fast. He'd say that loving someone and being ready to move on would take a much longer time. He said he saw it in family and family friends who'd been through the loss. He said the people who moved on super fast were disrespectful. Especially when they had kids who had lost a parent and needed to be supported and their parents' memory preserved. So I took it really hard when Dad was admitting he'd knocked someone up 7 months after my mom died. They'd started screwing each other 5 months after Mom died. Which is something I hate thinking about, but he admitted it. His girlfriend got extremely pissed off when I was saying that stuff to Dad about him not loving Mom. She took offense that I was focusing on that instead of on the news of a baby and greeting her. I ignored her and kept telling my dad what I thought, and she lost it and said I should be excited about the baby. She said Mom was dead and Dad had a right to a life after her. She said the baby didn't deserve this shit. She moved in that day and Dad spent days trying to make me okay and to apologize for it all happening so fast. His girlfriend didn't want me there and said I needed to leave if I wouldn't welcome her and celebrate the baby. Dad said no, but I told him I wanted to go. He tried to fight it, but I asked him if he ever wanted a relationship with me, because if he did, it would not happen if I was forced to live with her. I moved in with my grandparents. Dad comes to see me multiple times a week. He's talked me into going to the house for dinner a couple of times, but me and his girlfriend do not like each other. She's extra bitter that Dad's so focused on making our relationship work instead of on her and the baby. The last time I saw her was a month ago and she told me I was disgusting for not getting over myself and warming up to the baby who's coming whether I like it or not. She was also pissed that I wouldn't pick something up for her when she dropped it. Last Tuesday I got a text from her, don't have her number, but she said who she was, telling me she needed me to go over there now because she left her key in the house and got locked outside and she was in pain and having some bleeding and was supposed to rest. I still have a key to the house and Dad was still at work. I replied fuck off and I didn't go to help her. I blocked her number too. After that she used Dad's phone to leave a voicemail yelling at me and calling me names for leaving her outside when she's 7 months pregnant. I ignored it and Dad told me she just waited in the car until he got home. But she texted me in the middle of the night from Dad's phone calling me a POS. My dad knows about it and he apologized. He's still trying to make this all okay with me, but he also hopes we can all get along and be a family. Stories number 6. My husband brought chocolates and cookies to another mom at our son's school, not sure how upset I should be. I'm 39F, looking for some outside perspective on a situation that's been bothering me. My husband, 31M, is a stay-at-home dad and handles all the school drop-offs and pickups for our son. Recently, I mentioned that one of the moms at the school texted me to grab coffee sometime. A few days later, my husband admitted almost reluctantly that he had brought her chocolates and cookies. He drove about 30 minutes to a specialty store and that's where he got them. He was buying other stuff for himself there as well. Oh, and I've never met her. He said he was afraid she might mention it to me, so he confessed, but only after I brought her up. He apologized, but when I tried to have a deeper conversation about it, he got really angry and told me to just drop it. That reaction honestly made things feel worse. Later, I casually spoke to another parent at the school and she mentioned, without me asking much, that he comes across as a very flirty guy. I had no idea people viewed him that way. I'm just feeling a mix of confusion, disappointment, and insecurity. He put effort into buying and delivering sweets to another woman who, by the way, is married with several kids. I don't want to overreact, but I also don't want to ignore something that feels off. Any thoughts or advice would be appreciated. Stories number 7. Sacked police computer misuse and on holiday. I was a clerk at a company for about 18 months. I had a raging row with the owner and he fired me. I wanted to quit anyway as he bullied incessantly and didn't want to work my notice as he was horrible. I am not expecting any compensation. I left in the middle of March 2025. Last week the ex-boss has been calling me and screamed down the phone at me to fix something IT related. I have blocked him. I am camping this week with the kids as it's half term. My dad is house sitting for the pets and says the police turned up looking for me due to a computer crime at work. They thought he was me. They used an ancient system at the company using WISE terminals. The computer that controlled the manufacturing plant had floppy disks. Every 127 days a batch file had to be run or the machine would stop working. I have no idea what the file did, my predecessor just said it had to be done. Insert floppy disk, open DOS. Run reset.bat. If this isn't done the machine stops working. It is in the manual for the job. I know last week they would have come to the end of the 127 days and the machine would have stopped working. The manufacturer no longer exists and there is no other support. I had no intention of helping the man as he was constantly horrible. Do I have to help? What do I do? Re the police. Notable comment. Thank you all for your kind input. Home and put the kids to bed. To clear up a few points. I have not changed anything on the computer. I wouldn't know how to. I want help them. I know it would make life so much easier for me, but my time there was awful. I was never paid on time or fully. The abuse was constant, swearing, throwing things etc. He has not paid my 2 weeks' notice. When I left, the last thing on my mind was what will happen at the end of the 127-day cycle. I was just glad to be able to sleep at nights without getting sick about having to go back to that place. I had put him and his business out of my mind. I started to get phone calls from the ex-boss. He owns the company. These were rude and every other word was swear word, so I put the phone down. The phone calls continued getting more and more rude, swearing, cussing etc. I didn't think about blocking his number. I should have. The final straw was the last call, which was outrageous. He said if I didn't fix the computer he would rape and kill my wife, and then do the same to my kids in front of me, then kill me. Every word was followed by an expletive, and because of this there is absolutely no way I will help this man. I have told the police this, but they have taken no action against him that I know of. I get he must have been desperate. His business had been unable to fulfill orders for over a week, probably 2, and must be hemorrhaging cash. I have refused to speak to the police again until I can get a proper solicitor, and hopefully will be able to get one sorted before Thursday, which is the next day that the police officer is available. Reply: a handover didn't take place. The conversations was, "You're effing fired, now get the feck out." The disk is where it always was, on top of the computer box, under the wise green terminal screen. First update. On phone please excuse typos. England comfort break outside police station. Found out firm has not been able to make anything using the machine for over a week. Likely to shut down. Found out that the DOS prompt is C. It needs to be A, before the reset.bat can be run. They have the disk. They type reset.bat but nothing happens. I refuse to tell them how to fix this. It is nothing that I have done. The DOS box always prompted C, you need to type a reset bat. The police officer says under Section 3 of the Computer Misuse Act, I am committing a crime because by not helping I am hindering access to any program. Threatening to charge me. Duty solicitor is agreeing, even though I told him that I have done nothing and I have done nothing. I know very little about computers. I was a clerk raising invoices. What do I do now, please? Can I ask for a different solicitor? Update. I have been told that my ex-employer went into receivership on Monday morning after failing to secure an overdraft to pay wages on the last Friday of the month. Because of the abuse and threats that I have received from them, I have no sympathy. The police case was still pending, so I still had to find a competent solicitor, which I did after a lot of calling around. I got a call back from one who was more interested in the goings-on at the company. She explained that she was employed by a firm of business advisors and was involved in a case involving my employer. I asked in what capacity, and she said my ex-employer was suing them for wrecking their system. They had been called in to update the systems and changed accounts package, and also whilst they're asked to recommend changes to the computer that controlled the machinery. It turns out it wouldn't boot at all. From dates she gave me, this was clearly before my ex-boss started to call and rant at me. It had also been moved from the office to the shop floor next to the machines that it controlled. They are being blamed for it not booting because they asked for it to be switched on. The solicitor said she can't help me, but a colleague in her practice can. He was very good and made some phone calls, and on Tuesday we had a voluntary interview with a different police officer, sergeant, at a police station a couple of towns away who was a computer crime expert, and with me there the solicitor discussed the other legal case, that I hadn't been there since the computer had moved. The new officer said that I have no case to answer. May 8th. Details of historic case sought, very early computer misuse England. Back in the 1980s, I think, a man programmed a computer system and built in a pay switch, whereby if he wasn't paid, the system stopped working. He was prosecuted on the basis that his customer couldn't access their data. Does anyone have details of the case, please? Will my claim affect my wife's claim? I am unemployed as my employer went bust, no redundancy. I have also been signed off sick. What should I claim? I have £40,000 savings, but they are going down fast due to building repairs being done on the house. My wife has been unable to work and is on the higher level contribution-based ESA and has been for several years due to ongoing illness. She has tried to work. If I put in a claim for benefits, will her claim be impacted in any way? Also, my son is returning home from uni this summer. He has help at uni and gets PIP because although he can think, he physically can't look after himself. Will this impact any help that we get? Stories number 8. Aita for posting screenshots of my SIL's texts online and making her look bad. I, 29F, and my wife, 28F, had our son 6 days ago. The pregnancy was complicated and they had TTTS, twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, which resulted in them coming early. They are currently in the neonatal unit and my wife and I practically live there so we can spend time with our boys. My brother and his wife got married 2 days ago. I didn't want to leave my sons or my wife, so I missed the wedding, though I sent them their gift from us and a text wishing them a fantastic day, and I thought nothing more of it. Yesterday I got a text from my new sister-in-law explaining that because my wife and I missed the wedding she'd need us to send her £140 for our plates of food. I asked her if she was joking and she told me that she got my wife couldn't go as she had to stay in the hospital but that I wasn't the one who gave birth so I could have went and saved 2 plates of food from going to waste. I told her she was being ridiculous and asked if my brother was aware she was asking his sister for money for food. She brushed that off and said weddings were expensive and she had to try and recoup her losses and this should be between us, woman to woman. Between this and her thinking I should have gone anyway, I admit I lost my temper. I ended up taking screenshots of the conversation and posting it to Facebook. This shocked several people in the family and she must have gotten bombarded with messages as she told me to take it down, as I was making her look bad and people were taking it out of context and thinking she was some kind of villain. My brother called me and told me not to worry about the money, that it was stupid to expect us to pay for the plates, though asked me to take the post down and he'd handle it. He seemed kind of shocked by her even asking this. Did I go too far? My wife is mostly upset by our Sill's comment about how I wasn't the one to give birth, as if it makes me less of their mother. Maybe I should have handled it better, but I admit at the time I wasn't thinking very clearly. Edit. I thought I said in the post but I didn't. Sorry, running on very little sleep. I took down the post when my brother asked me to do so. Stories number 9. I, 29F, am planning to leave my completely financially dependent and toxic partner, 34M. How do I warn him that he needs to get it together? My partner and I moved out of our home state 4 years ago when I got a job. He has not had a job since, and I struggle significantly to get all of the bills paid. He spends $100 or more a week on weed, which makes it more difficult, and I have to pay for everything. He complains about my cooking, but doesn't cook either, so we have to eat out often. He gets in very foul moods where he slams things, yells, calls me names, etc. At the beginning of April I told him I don't want to be with him anymore. I also told him if he reacted aggressively to my feelings, I would plan to leave him without warning. He reacted aggressively, by slamming things, and then I decided to work outside of the apartment because he was being so loud and I work from home. He found the cubicle where I was working in our building, barged in, got in my face and called me a whore among other things. When I made the comments in April, I promised myself that I would leave. I believe that part of the reason he reacts so negatively to me saying these things is it means he will lose access to housing, food, a car, etc. He doesn't talk to his family. He does have one close friend whose family he can maybe stay with, although I'm not sure. My partner will be out of town for a week or less this summer, and I plan to pack up and leave then. I don't know how to go about this, and what I should say, if anything, given his previous reactions. My therapist connected me with a DV org, who is going to help me break my lease. I don't know how to go about telling him he needs to start taking action to support himself, given his reaction in the past. He will not know where I am going, however he does know where my mom lives, and that kind of freaks me out. Edit. I didn't expect this to blow up as much as it did. I will be leaving in July and will update this post. I plan to look at it whenever I start doubting myself. Thank you to everyone who gave such helpful responses. Also, things are generally amicable as long as I don't bring up breaking up. He can be cruel if I'm loud in the mornings and wake him up, but as of now we are getting along okay since he doesn't know my plans. I've even been asking if he needs help paying for his trip and he does not suspect anything. Stories number 10. If you can't afford to eat out, don't try to trick people into covering for you after the bill arrives. This one might be a long one, apologies in advance. Okay, maybe it was my bad for not checking to see if my brother, EB, had the means to pay for himself and his family for dinner, but lesson learned. This is one of many attempts my brother has tried to swindle me and or my husband out of money, but for some reason this one sticks out the most, probably because my poor husband got caught in the middle of this one. I call this, the Great Dim Sum Incident of 2013. Cast of characters. EB equals entitled brother, SIL equals EB's wife, my sister-in-law, also entitled, MIL equals EB's mother-in-law, SIL's mom, even worse, K1 equals nephew 1, sweet kid, K2 equals nephew 2, sweet kid X2, hubby equals my husband, me equals duh. Setting. Christmas 2013. Christmas Eve. EB calls me and asks if hubby and I wanted to go out for dim sum on Christmas Day. Considering EB's wife is of European stock and her family celebrates Christmas Eve, they have Christmas Day open. My own in-laws were out of town, so we said sure, we'd join them. EB's and my parents were long gone. Now, anyone who is familiar with dim sum knows that it's a madhouse on a good day, and it's amplified tenfold on Christmas Day. No matter, we donned our football gear and got our table for 7. We got seated after about 20 minutes, because, madhouse, and while we were waiting for the carts to roll by, hubby and I gave K1 and K2 and MIL their Christmas gifts. EB, SIL, hubby and I don't exchange gifts. All good, everyone had their fill, and despite the pandemonium inside the restaurant, we all had a good time. Then it was time to settle the bill. For 7 people the bill came to about $80 and change before tax and tip, pretty reasonable. I was doing some quick math in my head, and figured hubby and I were going Dutch with EB and his family, meaning, we'd pay approximately $30 plus our share of tax and tip for our portion, while EB would cover for his family. It was still stupidly busy inside, so hubby said he and EB would settle the bill while I took K1 and K2 outside to play until they were done. SIL and MIL stayed behind as well. 10 minutes go by and hubby, who is easily one of the most patient people I know, seriously, he has the patience of Job, I swear, exited the restaurant with the darkest expression on his face. He walked over to me and gently, but firmly, took my arm and hissed, "We're leaving," and led me toward the car. Confused, I gave the boys their goodbye hugs and waved to the other adults, though it didn't strike me till later that EB and SAL wouldn't look me in the eye. After getting in the car, I looked at hubby and said, "Okay, what was that all about?" He took a deep breath and explained. When he and EB got to the counter to pay, the hostess asked if it would be together or separate. Hubby said separate, but then EB took out his wallet and said he had no money, and his credit cards were mixed. Hubby was about to rail into him, but SIL and MIL then chimed in and accused him of wanting to deliberately spoil Christmas for their 2 kids and how selfish it would be to not cover the bill because 1, it would embarrass them, and 2, it was Christmas and, you guys have more money than us and can afford it. Not wanting to make a scene in a crowded venue, hubby ended up paying the whole thing, albeit grudgingly. To his credit, EB offered $5 because it was all he had, but hubby told him to keep it because it was obvious he needed it more. EB and SAL have tried inviting us out a few times since but burned once twice shy kinda thing. Not the first time they've tried to use their kids to get money out of us, but that's another post for another day. Edit. TLDR, EB invites us out for Christmas meal, purposely shows with no money, guilts hubby into paying by using their kids and accuses him of ruining their Christmas if he didn't pay. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. Here's a good reason to still use checks. You can just write us a check and we'll hold it until payday. Make sure you have the funds in your account. Bounced checks can get so expensive and legally very messy. Reply. Yeah, I don't think they even have checks. There were some issues with a bank fraud incident ages ago involving depositing empty envelopes in an ATM, X2, so their ATM depositing and/or cashback privileges were revoked. Everything they do is strictly cash or debit, he didn't even have his debit card on him that day. No, not sketchy at all. Commenter 2. I know you didn't create these children, but I appreciate anything you can do to teach them what they won't learn at home about how to be stable, happy, self-sufficient adults without criminal records. They'll be part of the adults running the world when I'm old and helpless. The adults, on the other hand, can live with their own choices unless you think they truly want to do better. Reply. Thankfully their kids aren't stupid. My husband and I try to instill good values, especially when it comes to their education and finances. Sadly, their immediate role models aren't exactly viable. My brother isn't all bad, but an extremely privileged and pampered upbringing skewed his views on budgeting. We're from a culture where the sons are viewed as gods while daughters are viewed as commodities and/or burdens, so money burns a hole in his pocket. There are tons of examples of this throughout our childhood and early adulthood, but again, another story for another day. Each incident warrants its own post, and trust me, I have many LOL. Commenter 3. Are you Chinese? The whole viewing sons as blessings and girls as burdens is something I've seen in some of Chinese friends' families. Sad. Reply. I'm Asian, but that's about as far as I'll go. Commenter 4. You're Indian. Gujarati? My friend growing up was Gujarati and by the time she was 15 she was already being pressured to get ready to marry and have children. Her brother was expected to be a lawyer or doctor. Fucked up. Reply. Nope, wrong on both counts. Don't you dare use your kids as a means to swindle me out of money. February 12, 2019. After posting my cautionary tale of the Great Dim Sum incident of 2013, hereinafter referred to as TGDSI 2K13, it made me think back to years prior, when I was a lot more naive and far less cynical than I am now. This is pretty much the incident that started it all. If you found TGDSI 2K13 amusing, you might find this entertaining. In all honesty, I'm not sure this even belongs here, or in a different subreddit that focuses mainly on shitty relatives. Guidance suggestions would be greatly appreciated. Pretty much the same players as before, just limited to 3 this time. EB equals entitled brother, SIL equals EB's wife, my sister-in-law, and yours truly. Circa 2004 EB calls me and he seems to be in a state. EB, sis, I need some help. Me, Sup. EB, well, money's really tight, it always is and always will be, and after paying rent I have like zero cash for groceries. The boys won't have anything for school lunches or even decent suppers etc. Can you help me out? Now, I am fiercely protective of my nephews, and he knows I'd do anything for them. But for himself and his wife, not so much, and he knows that too. Me, I'll see what I can do. How much do you think you'll need? EB, would you be able to swing $300? I can pay you back when payday comes, in 2 weeks. Considering $300 for a family of 5 would barely cover essentials, I thought this was reasonable. Me, okay, I think I can swing it. I can pick you up and we'll hit up the grocery. EB, I don't have time tonight, was planning to go tomorrow morning. Would you be able to drop off a check or cash? He had no working vehicle and I lived a good 30-minute drive away. Besides, I had to work in the morning and I knew he worked afternoon shift. Me, alright, give me an hour. I drive the 30 minutes, drop off the check to a seemingly very grateful EB. Everything seemed fine. As it was about 10 p.m. by the time I got home, I crashed. At work the next day, I decided to call EB and remind him to deposit the check right away. SIL answered the phone, and I was shocked as hell during the following conversation. Me, hey SIL. Is EB home? SIL, no, he's out of town. Me, oh. Did work send him off for something? SIL, no, he's on that road trip, remember? Me, cautious as hell, what road trip? SIL, he's gone to Chicago for that D&D tournament. Are you backing out now? You told him you'd give him money for that. He and 3 buddies decided to carpool and apparently he needed the $300 for his share of gas, food and other traveling expenses. Me, UHNO, I told him I'd give him money for groceries for your kids. You're telling me he's gone cross-country for a goddamn gaming tournament? SIL, calm down, it's not like you're hurting for money. You can afford it. Granted, my husband and I make decent money, enough to be comfortable, but we work damn hard for it and not once did we ever flaunt our perceived wealth in their faces. And I assure you, I never offered to pay for a road trip. Me, if he can afford to go to a faking D&D tournament, he can damn well afford groceries. SIL, you'd let your nephews starve. I hung up, I was so furious. But not as furious as I was several weeks later, when I got another call from EB, with the same sob story. No money, kids are hungry, can just barely make rent, blah blah blah. Can you spare another $300 until I get my work bonus? Me, sure EB. When were you planning to go get groceries? EB, I was going to go tomorrow morning, before going to work. Me, what a coincidence, I have tomorrow off. I'll swing by at around 9 o'clock. EB, no, it's okay, it would be easier for you to just drop off cash or a check. Me, so you can go on another effing road trip? I don't think so. EB, dead silence. Me, see you at 9 o'clock. He tries to protest and I laid it out for him. You get sweet EFF all unless I pick you up, take you to Kroger, and buy you groceries. And groceries is all you're gonna get. If your kids are starving, you'll find far more value in that and take me up on my offer. It's what you needed, after all, by your own admission. Picked him up and took him to the store, where he proceeded to get maybe $20 worth of food. Dropped him off at home, where he left my vehicle without a word, not even a thank you. But my satisfaction in confirming my suspicions was its own reward. FTR, I called my nephews that evening to make sure they had eaten, who excitedly told me they had takeout pizza for dinner. Bless their hearts, they really had no idea what kind of a manipulator their dad could be. At least they're now at that age where they can see and understand that what their parents are doing is wrong. I just hope they continue to be the good boys that they are. Edit 1, atrocious spelling. Edit 2, TLDR, EB lies to me about his kids needing groceries so he could essentially swindle me out of money for a boys' cross-country road trip to a D&D tournament. Tries again, gets shot down. Relevant comments. Reply. After that incident I never gave him a red cent, at least in cash form. If he said he needed anything in particular, be it groceries, sundry items or school supplies for the kids, I offered to take him and buy those items. Except for the initial $20 for groceries, he's never taken me up on those offers. It was my way of telling if he truly needed anything or was just trying to basically steal from me under false pretenses. Gravy train came to a screeching halt. Did EB ever pay OOP back the $300? Why is he such a mess? Ha, hell no. That will never happen. Not sure where his money goes. As far as I know he's not a drug user and doesn't gamble. As for kids, I'm sure he was in an idealistic state of mind at the time and didn't bother to think about future plans. For a university-educated guy, he sure is stupid despite graduating with honors. But as they say, being book smart doesn't make you street smart. Or life smart. Mom got, not so, petty revenge on my entitled brother's family February 14, 2019. Pretty long one. Not the first story I've written about my entitled brother, EB, his wife, SIL, and their kids, K1 and K2. I'm kind of torn about enjoying the schadenfreude that ensued since it resulted in some pretty bad karma for EB, but given the history of EB's actions, some of you may find it justified. It's a multi-parter, and I'll try to keep it organized. The reason I post it to this sub is, even though EB is a piece of shit, almost every single bad decision he's made usually is based on him using his kids to gain sympathy or money. If this belongs somewhere else, let me know. Quick backstory, EB and I were raised in a semi-traditional household where boys are revered and girls are frowned upon and considered irrelevant, burdens, and overall disappointments. This resulted in a spoiled, coddled EB, and to quote a phrase from Willy Wonka, a kid can't spoil himself, you know. EB grew up with a parent-paid post-secondary education, along with residence, tuition, books, and meals all paid for since parents didn't want him to distract himself with a job while pursuing his BA. Throughout the post-secondary years, it was becoming evident that EB was using our parents more like a bank than anything. No calls or visits unless he needed money, end of. At first, parents obliged, but they slowly started to realize the entitled monster they raised, so they started cutting him off. He then hooked up with Sil, who was 5 months pregnant at the time with someone else's child, this is important, and threatened to quit school so he could help her raise the child. Because our dad was paying for his schooling, he basically told EB over my dead body, and that if he wanted to quit, then he'd be on the hook for all of the tuition up to that point. EB got pissed and moved out, and got a job doing low-end retail. Finished his BA, and gave up an amazing job in his field of study to support Sil and K1, K2 didn't come along until perhaps 3 years later. Part 1, Dad. Our dad fell very ill to stomach cancer, and the prognosis was not good. At the time of diagnosis he was given approximately 3 months. During these 3 months, EB still would only come by the house when he needed money, and only stuck around long enough until he either received a check or was told no, it was more often the latter. Never even asked how Dad was doing. After Dad passed away almost exactly 3 months later, the first thing EB asks our mother was if Dad had a life insurance policy. EB's presence was not welcome after that, and even though he attended the funeral service, he left quickly after making his obligatory appearance. Part 2, Mom. Approximately 2 weeks after Dad's funeral, I came home from work one day to find Mom sitting with Dad's good friend George, who was also a life insurance broker. Curious, I asked her what the purpose of George's visit was, especially so recently after Dad passed away. She explained to me that she applied for a policy for herself, for $500,000. I was floored. Mom, I don't mean to sound pessimistic, but there is no way you'll qualify for such a policy. Your health isn't terrific, you're diabetic, have heart disease and high blood pressure. Mom, smiling, don't worry. Just make sure your brother knows, but not until the time is right. Okay, Mom, sounded kinda cryptic, but whatever. Same shit all over again. EB didn't come visit Mom after Dad passed away, unless he needed money. And over again, nothing was shelled out to him. I don't know what hurt her more, the fact that her husband of 40+ years was gone, or that her only son was treating her like shit. EB would try to bully her, saying that she doesn't care about her only grandchild and that she's depriving him of a decent childhood, etc. And Sil would try to chime in at the same time. It was horrible. For weeks after this encounter, Mom passed away from a heart attack and stroke. I could barely think, I was in so much grief and shock at the thought of losing both parents within 6 weeks. After signing the appropriate paperwork at the hospital, EB said he would drive me home. I had in my possession our mom's personal effects, clothes, jewelry, purse, etc. On the way home, he asked the most unbelievable question. EB, hey, did Mom have any money in her purse? Kid needs food. I almost threw myself out of the car doing 50 miles per hour. Without a word, I looked in her purse and fished out a $20 bill and flung it at him. Then the next thing out of his mouth. EB, did Mom have a life insurance policy? Bingo. That's what she was getting at back then. I guess the time is right. Right now, I thought. Yeah, she applied for a policy shortly after Dad died. I guess she wanted to make sure we were taken care of in case something happened. EB, really? How much? $500,000. The ride was silent for most the way back. I swear I heard cha-ching coming from his direction. Part 3, The Aftermath. Approximately a month after Mom's service, and yeah, it was a replay of Dad's where EB would simply show and leave after making his obligatory appearance, again leaving his kid sister with the responsibility of the funeral and other shit. I received a letter addressed to my mom. I opened it, and sure enough, it was from the insurance company. The very first paragraph started off with, paraphrased, "We regret to inform you that you do not qualify for the aforementioned life insurance policy, etc." After talking to our trustee and executor, I was told either he or I could call to inform EB. I volunteered to do it. So I called up EB with the unfortunate news. Me, hey, EB got a letter from Not a Real Company Life about mom's policy. EB, oh yeah. When do we get the check? Me, that's just it. She didn't qualify. It was a regrets letter. EB, get it through your head, SH didn't qualify for the policy. All hell broke loose. EB, what about my kid? I can't afford to pay rent. He needs food, we need rent, we need to pay off our vacation. How could she do this to me? SIL then grabs the phone. You did this, didn't you? You're just jealous that you don't have kids. I was 22 at the time, engaged, working and going to school, and had zero interest in having children, and you just want all the money for yourself. K1 needs this money for his education, and you're going to fucking steal it from him? You would steal from your own nephew? You piece of shit. I'm going to sue. That money is ours, you don't deserve a fucking cent. What followed was a rather indignant, and panicked, call by EB to our trustee and executor, who happened to be my mom's cousin. I later found out the life insurance guy was in on the prank, remember, old friend of Dad's, simply to teach EB and his wife a lesson he'd never forget. Apparently EB racked up close to 40K in debt upon being told that Mom applied for this policy, spending money he didn't have yet was expecting to get. Turns out Mom and Dad, even though they showed zero faith in me while growing up, apparently had a different view as I got older and figured out I'd be okay if anything happened to them. They were right, especially since I moved back home to look after them after they both fell ill. Meanwhile, the pride they had in EB had waned to the point where cutting him off financially didn't do any good, so Mom felt she had to play the ultimate revenge from the grave. Yeah, it fucked him up even more as an adult, and in a way Mom ended up punishing a monster she and Dad themselves created, so I do feel a little bad for him. But because he keeps finding new ways to try to cheat me and steal money from me, I feel bad only a little. Just a little. There was an inheritance later on, and believe me the story gets even better, but another story for another day. If you guys are interested in hearing more hijinks, I'm happy to share. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. This story made me tear up. She was planning her death all along and used it to punish the EB. She told you only to tell him when the time is right and you did. Your mom is a reincarnation of a god, I just know it. Reply. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry once I finally realized what she had been planning all along. And knowing she went through all that emotional pain while withholding her real reason was, I think, a way to protect me. I know she and Dad felt guilty for the way I was treated. Dad later apologized to me when he was in the hospital, but overall I think it did me way more good than bad, even though I was a resentful kid and didn't realize it at the time. EB still has that silver spoon, but I feel Mom took that silver spoon and shoved it up his ass with her act of revenge. Receive a hefty inheritance, blow it in 6 months, EB comes crawling to his sibling begging for money. February 14, 2019. Firstly, I'd like to thank you all for the great feedback on my other sordid tales from my past, EB aka entitled brother using his kids to screw me out of money, the great dim sum incident of 2013 aka TGDSI 2K13, and the great life insurance scandal aka TGLIS. These posts aren't a means to gloat, but they're a form of therapy that is a lot more affordable than seeing a shrink. My work benefit package kinda sucks that way. It's pretty clear I have some unresolved issues. Those of you who have read TGLIS will be interested to know this incident follows shortly afterward, probably about a year and a half later. Should also note, I'm a fairly new Redditor and these stories are not always in chronological order unless stated otherwise. So, after the dust settled a bit, the go-dofful task of settling the estate was next. Dad was a very hard-working man, and despite his faults, hey, we all have them, and if you believe otherwise, you're a goddamn liar. He managed to provide for a family of 6 with a roof over our heads, good food on the table and the creature comforts that we all sometimes take for granted. When he and Mom passed, they left us 2 kids, EB and myself, with a considerable sum, with the intention to give us a comfortable head start in life. It wasn't a staggering amount by today's standards, but definitely enough for a starter home for each of us. This was well before the housing crisis came to be. I was newly married, and felt the best way to handle this newfound inheritance was to invest in a modest home free and clear, pay off all commercial debt. Thankfully my husband and I are good that way and didn't have much consumer debt, and a vehicle to replace my little jalopy. There was even enough to put a down payment on a vehicle for hubby. Despite my parents being gone, I was in a good place, all things considered. I didn't care if I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. We were both working FT and had a house fully paid for. EB received the same amount. He, too, decided to invest in a new home and a new used vehicle. Very smart use of his portion. Or so I thought. About 6 months later, I received a disturbing phone call from EB, saying he was broke and needed money. I was incredulous. He was also looking for a new place to live. What happened to his house? Then the bomb was dropped. He admitted he had given up his house to foreclosure. Instead of buying his place outright, he instead placed a 10% down payment and decided to mortgage the rest. This tactic will work only if you don't mind losing a shit ton of money to interest, and if you intend to, make your mortgage payments. He had neither. After being notified by the bank about his sad state of affairs, he was given an incredible gift. Because EB was a new homeowner, the bank was willing to make a one-time concession, pay 2 months of outstanding mortgage payments up front, and the rest would be tacked onto the amortization period. Seriously, that shit never happens. It was a gift from some unseen entity that took pity on this piece of shit. And you know what he said? Nah, take the house. Take the house. So he was able to sell the house for a $3,000 profit, and then decided to rent some shitty apartment, where he remains to this day. I don't know where his money went, and it's really none of my business, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious. So you're probably asking where the entitlement comes in. EB, I'm short rent. Me, oh, this again. EB, this is serious. We're going to be evicted if I can't come up with rent by end of week. SIL aka sister-in-law, screeching in the background she owes US money. Sigh. I should backtrack a bit. When the estate was settled, I petitioned for a small portion of EB's share, about $10,000, to cover the following items, among other things. Cleaning out the family home, including performing repairs to prepare the house for sale. Arranging for both funeral services since EB went AWOL. My paying for both grave markers out of pocket since EB refused to pitch in for what Dad's policy couldn't cover. My paying for legal fees in relation to the execution of both wills and settling the estate. I should note that EB, in a moment of clarity, agreed to this arrangement without hesitation, even though I made it very clear that he was under no obligation. I thought that would be the end of it. SIL wouldn't have it. She accused me of stealing from EB his rightful share, and that I had such nerve to be so selfish to demand money from them when it was totally undeserved. This coming from the same woman who paraded through my parents' home on the day of Mom's funeral, pointing out shit she wanted. I jokingly bet my husband that EB would go through his inheritance within a year while hubby said 6 months. I still owe him a fancy steak dinner since I lost the bet. Anyway, back to the rent story. All I could do was tell EB that I simply couldn't afford to pay his rent since I had tuition to pay for, and that my husband can't stand him, but I didn't tell him that. He didn't end up getting evicted, so he either found another sucker, or he had the money squirreled away and was just trying to find a way to get more money out of me. SIL will make a sniping comment now and then about how well off we are at their expense. She still claims that their financial downfall is somehow my fault as opposed to their atrocious money handling skills. The most important thing is they never did get kicked out, but I'm still dumbfounded and appalled at how this whole shitstorm played out. I honestly wish I could say that these stories are fabricated, but sadly, they are not. And even more sadly, there's more in that tiny library I call a brain. May post more later. Thanks for reading. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. May I ask? What the hell happened to your brother that make him this way? Reply. Spoiled from birth. Firstborn child, and being a son at that. In my parents' eyes he could do no wrong until they finally realized what kind of an unappreciative douchebag he turned out to be. Gender inequality runs rampant in my culture, and it's sad to say that my story isn't unique. Sad face. I was fortunate in that my parents recognized this when I reached my early 20s and actually apologized shortly before they died. Most females in my situation aren't afforded that kind of recognition. Update. SIL and EB's MIL indignant over baby shower gift. So you thought I'd run out of stories about entitled brother, EB, and sister-in-law, SIL? Oh, how wrong you were. This one also involves SIL's mother, MIL, and let me tell you, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. This happened just before my first nephew was born. Nephew is not EB's, not that this matters, but it does lend a bit of relevance since SIL essentially roped EB into being a baby daddy when she was 17 and desperate to find someone to support her. I was sent an invitation to SIL's baby shower, organized by herself. Maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned, but I was brought up with the notion that it was in poor taste for the expectant parents to throw their own showers, but perhaps times have changed since then. Anyway, I read on the invitation that it was a Winnie the Pooh theme. I was a student working PT at minimum wage, and Winnie the Pooh, or anything Disney themed at the time, was way out of my price range. I definitely didn't want to go empty-handed, so I checked my bank account and went shopping. The only thing I could find in my price range was a Tiny Toons themed onesie and a couple of receiving blankets. I figured that they would be of the mindset that it was the thought that counts and they were super strapped for cash, so some useful items despite the lack of the desired theme would be appreciated. Hell no, I couldn't have been more wrong. When the time came to open gifts, I excitedly gave her mine and I waited with bated breath. The look of disappointment and then disgust took the wind out of my sails. SIL, the theme was Winnie the Pooh, not Tiny Toons. It was right on the invitation. MIL then snatches the onesie and scoffs, this isn't even worth $10. She even went so far as to toss the receiving blankets into the pile of wrapping paper and muttered, "How could someone be so cheap?" I was floored. And hurt. I could barely stammer out, "I'm sorry, but I couldn't afford," and she cut me off. MIL, if you couldn't afford a decent gift, why did you even bother coming? Side note, SIL and I are very close in age, so I was 17 and very timid at this time. Glad to see I've changed since then. In spades. I looked around the room and it was as if everyone was frozen in place, teacups hovering and sandwiches in mid-bite. I was so humiliated and thought everyone was in shock at the shitty gift I had given that it never occurred to me that they were actually shocked at SIL's and MIL's appalling behavior. Even EB looked uncomfortable. I burst into tears, gathered my shit and promptly left for home. There was nothing else I could do. I had spent my last $20 on the gifts, wrapping paper and card, and I didn't even have money to go to a restaurant to get myself a cup of coffee and wallow, so I went straight home. Mom and Dad weren't home, they were on a well-deserved vacation, so I just curled up with a book and tried to distract myself from the events of that afternoon. In the end, EB did feel a little bad, even though he didn't stand up for me. He called me and told me the shower pretty much ended right after I left. He did express a smidge of an apology for SIL's and MIL's behavior, which was quickly quashed when he added that the shower ended early due to my outburst. Gee, thanks. I go out of my way to find a thoughtful and affordable gift and have it thrown in my face, along with insults, and somehow it's my fault everyone decided to leave early. Fuck you and the camel. I told my folks what had happened after they got back from vacation. At least Mom expressed her relief at being out of town for the event because she had zero interest in going. TLDR, spent the last bit of available cash on SIL's baby shower gift. SIL and MIL felt it wasn't good enough and threw the gift back in my face because it wasn't expensive enough. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. I'm so sorry for what you went through. I'm also sorry for your nephews who have to grow up around rotten people. I hope they turn out alright and nothing like your bro or SIL and MIL. Reply. This happened over 25 years ago, and from what I see, those boys are turning out just fine. I don't know how, but I'm not going to question it. Smiley face. Meanwhile, EB and SIL keep finding themselves in sticky financial situations due to poor decision making. DH and I refuse to help them out after being burned too many times, so EB and SIL know better than to approach us. K1 and K2, however, know they can come to us if they need anything and they show no signs of the rude entitled attitude, thank God. SIL and EB's MIL show zero appreciation for nephew's birthday party February 15, 2019. I think Reddit may have created a monster in me. Ever since I found this sub I've been dying to relay stories of my entitled brother, EB, his wife, SIL, her mother, MIL, and their kids, K1 and K2. The more I think back, the more crap I seem to dig out from my subconscious as I've been making a concerted effort over the years to repress a lot of it. Every time I finish a story, my dear husband, DH, says, "Oh, but what about? Don't you remember when he?" So it's a never-ending cycle of story after story. But with the glory of the interwebs, I now have an outlet to vent, and I thank you all for allowing me to do so. I love this sub. The only drawback is the floodgates have now opened and sometimes I think I'm posting a bit much all at once and fear I'm spamming. So if you think too much is too much, let me know and I'll put the muzzle on. It was right before K1's 6th birthday, and EB and SIL wanted to throw him a birthday party. K1 voiced that he really wanted to go bowling, complete with hot dogs, cake, ice cream, presents, and all of his little friends in attendance so they can have a fun afternoon. This sounded wholesome and fun. I remember my past birthday parties involving bowling and having a blast, so I happily obliged when EB called me to ask for a bit of help from me and DH, dear husband. The only concern was that I was working that Saturday, but had arranged with a coworker to switch shifts so I could attend. Thankfully coworker is a father himself, and understood the need for me to take this particular Saturday off. I knew EB and SIL were very badly struggling financially, and naturally they still wanted to show their little one a good time, with all of his friends. To help ease the burden, DH, who also arranged for a day off from work, and I offered to bring a cake and supply the grab bags, mini bags usually full of dime store candy and small toys that are distributed upon the kids' departure from the party. There were 10 kids confirmed, which meant that the bags alone and their contents would be between $50 and $70 in total if you included the cost of the bags and the cake ingredients. Since store-bought cakes are often expensive and taste like shit, especially if purchased from a grocery store chain, I opted to bake a chocolate scratch cake, per K1's wishes. DH and I weren't rich by any means. This was several years before the inheritance came to be, and we were both still early in our careers with one of us taking PT classes at the same time, but we felt between us we could definitely aside a maximum of $100 toward this little shindig. SL jumped at the offer and gave us the details. The night before the party I made the scratch cake and decorated it with sprinkles and colorful icing, complete with "Happy Birthday K1" scrawled on top in bright blue decorating gel. It wasn't a Rembrandt or Picasso, but it looked pretty festive and nice and was tasty as hell, and most kids aren't terribly concerned with particulars about how fancy a cake looks, they just want to eat it and get that sugar rush. Meanwhile, DH was filling the treat bags, 10 bags containing a small assortment of candy, a toy whistle, and a placard toy. We even made 2 extra ones in case there was an extra surprise kid or two, or if one of the kids had a little sibling at home and they didn't want them to feel left out. We were set. The next afternoon DH and I carefully loaded the cake and grab bags into the car and made our way to the bowling alley close to EB and SIL's place, so roughly a 30-minute drive away. EB and SIL were already there, as well as SIL's mother, MIL. This alley hosts birthday parties on the regular, and they have a room set up in the back for such an occasion. We carefully carried the cake and bags to the room, ensured the girl behind the counter started the hot dogs. They were cooked on rotating spokes in a glass display and took quite some time to heat up to a proper temp, and waited for the kids to arrive. Within about half an hour of arriving, 10 kids showed up, along with some parents, making it 12 kids if you included K1 and his brother K2, and about 6 adults. Great turnout. We herded the kids to the shoe counter where they all got their bowling shoes. After helping them lace up, we hit the lanes. All of the adults opted to sit back and watch, and 2 of the kids didn't bowl, one had a cast on his wrist and the other simply didn't want to bowl. I think he was just in it for the cake, lol, but they were amazingly well behaved and were content with just sitting on the bench, watching their friends chuck balls down the lanes. After about an hour, we called the kids to the back room for hot dogs, cake and presents. Thankfully, this went off without a hitch. After everyone had their fill, bowling resumed. Once the third game was done about another hour later, it was time for the kids to leave. DH handed each kid their grab bag, which was welcomed with a huge, "Thank you, mister," and everyone was happy. Or so I thought. DH and I started gathering up the paper plates while EB returned the bowling shoes to the counter. Then came the time to pay. Thankfully, K1 and his brother were sitting at one of the tables playing with toys, away from the adults so they couldn't hear the ensuing conversation. "All right," said the fellow behind the counter. "That's a bowling package for 12 kids at $6 each. I'll only charge you $3 for the 2 kids who didn't bowl, to cover their hot dog and pop, so that comes to $66, please." No one moved. I looked at DH looked at EB looked at SIL and her mother were both shooting daggers at me and DH. MIL, well, DH, well what? MIL, aren't you going to pay the man? Me, for what? We already made the cake and the grab bags. You were expecting us to foot the bill again for something. MIL, well, isn't that what you promised to do? You said you were going to pay. Me, I said we would cover the cake and the gift bags for the kids. MIL, well, the cake, voice dripping with contempt, was homemade. You cheaped out on the cake, so you may as well put the extra toward the bowling. Why are you trying to cheap out on this whole thing and go back on a promise and break a little boy's heart? DH, like hell we will. We did our part, you can take some responsibility for once, while pointing at the 3 of them. SIL, K1. Calling out to the birthday boy, "Come here please." K1, trots over, "Yeah." SIL, "Auntie and uncle don't want to pay for your birthday party." K1, while hugging DH's legs, "But auntie and uncle brought cake and presents. I thought you and dad and grandma were taking us out." It took every ounce of willpower to not burst out laughing. EB's face turned beet red with embarrassment and SIL was visibly flustered. Me, did you have a good time, K1? K1, yes. I had so much fun bowling and playing and being with friends and eating cake and. Me, laughing and giving him a big hug. Okay. Listen kiddo, we have to go, but you give us a call later tonight. Happy birthday, K1, okay. Thank you for the cake. Kids' priorities, lol. And with that, DH and I turned on our heel and walked out, leaving the remaining adults to hash it out. K1 called me later that evening and we briefly chatted, but he was winding down from his sugar rush so the call was short. I never did end up finding out how EB, SIL and MIL handled everything afterward, but that was one of the few times I left him hanging and feeling really good about it. Edit. Because I can't math the number of kids who actually attended, lol. Husband reminded me of an EB incident I had repressed February 17, 2019. This one kinda skates a fine line between belonging here or in family. If it doesn't belong here, I'll remove and post elsewhere. In one of my earlier, many, posts I've made mention of my entitled brother, EB, and sister-in-law, SIL, behaving badly at my house during my mom's funeral tea. I recalled her walking around the house openly pointing out shit she wanted, but my dear husband, fiancé at the time of the incident, and I were reminiscing about this day last night after I told him about my posting these stories to Reddit and how helpful it, and all of you guys, have been. SIL was just walking around pointing out what she wanted. Me, yeah. I remember her walking around upstairs in the living room, commenting about how much she liked the painting over the mantel. And how they could use one of the sofas. And how K1, nephew 1, would like the NES system, which was actually mine. No, I meant, is that all you remember? Me, it was a pretty emotional day and it's been well over 20 years. You don't remember what happened downstairs. Me, I remember sitting with all my cousins downstairs while the aunts and uncles were upstairs having tea. But that's about all I can really recall. Han, I was downstairs with you and the cousins too, but you seriously don't remember SIL casually commenting to EB about how the house was all theirs now, and we're both standing within 2 feet of me. Me, blank stare. It was pretty obvious the cousins heard because all of a sudden you had, cousin 1, pinning your elbows behind your back, and, cousin 2, freaking out and begging you to calm down. You don't remember. Me, I remember being upset and the cousins trying to calm me down but I really don't recall why. SIL and EB made a hasty retreat out of the room and I followed them to make sure they left right away. I knew you'd be fine with all 7 of your cousins. I was scared what would have happened if EB and SIL decided to return to the rec room. Me, so that's why they left. People were asking where EB went and I had no answer for them. Yeah, that's why he stayed for only half an hour. I didn't want to say anything to the aunts and uncles because you had been through enough that day. Besides, I'm pretty sure your cousins would have informed them later. I couldn't believe she had the audacity to say something so inappropriate, 1, at a funeral tea, 2, in front of so many people that were related to you and your mom, and 3, in front of you. It was and still is none of her business. No wonder your family hates her so much. Maybe I should be glad I didn't remember everything from that day. Geez, I had the chain of events of that day all wrong before. The beginning of the end of Entitled Brothers Gravy Train February 18, 2019. I know almost all of my stories took place years and years ago, so I don't know if such submissions would be considered relevant as they're not in present day. Please delete remove if this is not appropriate here. My entitled brother, EB, is usually the focal point of my rants, sometimes involving his wife, SIL. My brother was spoiled as hell, and while my parents meant well at the time, they didn't realize just how badly things would turn out for both EB and themselves. EB was set to graduate from a fairly prestigious university, on Dad's dime, and even though EB had proven himself to our parents to be utterly greedy, shameless, manipulative and selfish, they still indulged him. So yeah, I do acknowledge they played a huge part in his attitude, but their punishment was having to put up with his abuse. He was living on campus during the school year and split his time between the family home and SIL's, then girlfriend. During the semesters he didn't have classes, usually limited to 1 per year, winter or spring, depending on his course load. And during those semesters off he would work at a local retail shop for additional spending money, even though he wasn't expected to contribute any of it to living expenses or tuition. Lord knows why. Upon graduating from uni with his BA, my parents were super proud, as they should, as he was the first one to graduate from post-secondary. It was a reason to celebrate, and the parents had a myriad of graduation gifts for him, a new watch, a gold chain, cash, etc. Despite the magnitude of gifts he received, he approached Dad with the request of a car, citing the need to have a vehicle since there now was a baby, K1 or nephew 1, to look after. Dad was skeptical. He was nearing retirement and he had already used up both EB's and my RESP's, Registered Educational Savings Plan, to pay for EB's last year of uni. His heartstrings were being manipulated with the mere mention of K1, but he also knew that he couldn't plunder his and Mom's savings just because EB wanted a car, so after hemming and hawing, he made EB a deal. He would co-sign a loan for said car, so long as it was limited to something sensible and affordable. Together they settled on a newer model second-hand Geo Metro, think of a gas-powered sewing machine, the epitome of compact car, for $3,000. The minimum payments came to a reasonable amount. If I recall correctly, EB would have had to make a $50 payment twice monthly. The problem with this setup is that Dad would be taking all the risk while EB would get off scot-free if he defaulted. Dad made it very clear to EB that he would have to be extremely diligent with making that minimum payment, or else it would be Dad's credit that would suffer. EB eagerly agreed, stating that he was going to get more hours at his retail job to maintain the payments. You know where this is going, don't you? 2 months go by without incident, until one day I got a phone call from my dad. It was the bank. Dad wasn't home, so I asked if I could be of any help. They couldn't tell me anything really, except when I asked if it had anything to do with a loan. Side note, Mom and Dad dealt with one bank forever, Bank 1, and this loan was made through the bank EB dealt with, Bank 2. So when the bank rep said he was calling from bank 2, it was pretty easy to discern for what reason they were calling. The rep kind of faltered. We lived in a very small town, where everyone knew everyone and their business. I got a sick feeling in my stomach and told them I'd get Dad to call them back or visit their branch the next possible moment. When Dad got home, I had no choice but to tell him. When he returned from the bank, he was madder than a wet hen. Apparently EB hadn't made a single car payment, not a one. The total amount outstanding wasn't huge, but the fact that he had welched on an agreement between he and Dad and put Dad's credit at risk, he was furious. Dad called EB with a fury I had never seen before. EB promised he would make the payments ASAP and we thought that was the end of it. Another 3 months go by, and Dad got yet another call, for the same reason. Dad again called EB and demanded he bring the car to the house since he couldn't be responsible enough. The plan at that point was to allow me to take over the payments and have full use of it. Here's the problem none of us were expecting. EB told Dad he didn't have the car anymore. When asked, more like demanded, why, he said it needed a $400 brake job and he couldn't afford it, so he sold it to some guy down the road from him for scrap, for $100. Because it was a private cash sale, there was no search for liens or anything and he just let it go. Words cannot express how pissed off Dad was. He demanded EB continue with the payments, but EB refused because he felt he shouldn't have to pay for a vehicle he didn't own. And because Dad was on the hook as he was the co-signer, he was ultimately responsible for that loan. Dad ended up paying for that car for the next year, and it was another nail in the coffin for EB. I think that was when EB was completely cut off financially, but it came too late. Outlined in another post, found in JNF the last straw came when he abandoned me at a train station when I was on crutches and he refused to give me a ride home when he was in possession of our dad's car, instead opting to go shopping with Sale to a mall that took him literally past our house. After both parents had their way with him, he moved out permanently a week later. It's been over 20 years since that happened and I'm still mad about it. Stories number 11. My parents, F45 M46, are actively undermining my healing from SA. Can I, F20, continue this relationship? I need guidance. I am so confused by the argument I landed in with my parents. We've gotten in arguments and had rough patches for years. I love my parents but they've caused me a lot of pain and it can be difficult to live with them. I even left home for a bit as a teenager and stayed with friends and relatives. I just finished up college a week ago. For context, I had had a difficult time getting through the semester. I rarely tell my parents sensitive information anymore. I wish I had a relationship where I felt comfortable to share but I honestly don't. Still, I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep the fact that I was raped from them. I was really thankful when my mom took me to the hospital. I wasn't sure how she was going to react. It's something that's become a shock the more I think about it. It's been really scary to be around other people and I had hoped my parents understood that I needed time to heal, while still pushing myself through school. I feel panicked and guilty that I'm not doing enough often. I feel stretched thin and scared. I know I don't contribute to my parents the way I used to but I thought they could understand why. The other night, I had a headache. I came upstairs and tried to be with the family even though I was exhausted. I was cleaning the kitchen and drying the dishes when my mom seemed irritated with me. She asked me why I was so miserable and told me I was sucking all the energy out of everything. I called her out. I don't do it often because I know it's going to ruin my mental health. I'm embarrassed but my fight or flight kicked in and I cried in the corner. I admitted to her that I was afraid of her. She told me she believes I need more disorder screening. She told me I wasn't well and I wasn't thinking right. It's really scary to not be able to trust if I'm thinking clearly but I have no other indicators of needing evaluation other than my parents' opinion. She's also accused me of needing more medication as a result of me calling her out in the past. I honestly don't know what to do. They're annoyed that I'm spending time away from the family, but also annoyed that I'm tired when I pushed myself to stay. I feel so panicked. I feel like I can't rest in this house and I'm always on edge. They cornered me again yesterday. They told me that they're cutting me off and my mom admitted her support is not unconditional. They expect me to have a job even though I literally just finished. My father lunged at me and my mom had to hold him back. I don't understand what I did to make them so upset. I'm sad that I can't feel safe with them. Comments. Commenter 1, I am so sorry they cannot give you the time you need to heal. Congratulations on finishing college anyway. Maybe you do need more professional help but they do too. You are better off elsewhere and low contact. Commenter 2, you didn't mention if you have other people who can support you or not, but you could find someone to talk to via rain.org. It's the Rape, Abuse and Incest National Network. I am so sorry your family is being so awful. I am sending you hugs. Update. I can't believe this is real. I just want to wake up and go back to being vulnerable with my parents but I'm too scared to even talk to them right now. A few weeks ago I had a blowout argument with my parents where I told them to go to therapy. They revealed to me that they have actually both been going to therapy for months. I stopped arguing the point because I figured it wasn't my place to prod into their mental health journeys further if they purposefully hadn't shared. After that argument my mom had become increasingly more and more hyper-focused on the potential of me having BPD. Every conversation was about how I'm not seeing reality and need to start getting treatment for BPD. A few mornings ago she revealed that the therapy she was referring to wasn't for her. I'm not sure how long this has been happening, but my parents have been engaging with a therapist for months to correct my BPD. I have a team of experts helping me with my mental health, none of them has ever suggested I have BPD. A few years ago, when my parents first started non-stop talking about me having BPD, I asked my psychiatrist if he suggested a diagnosis and he said it was unnecessary. In this house I am treated as though I have BPD. They aren't listening to me. If I criticize them, I'm crazy. I was raped a few months ago and am still feeling shocked and traumatized. I can't heal from rape if I'm constantly on edge and cannot feel safe. I talked to a professional, she seemed to agree with me that they were overstepping. I can't move out but I don't know how to stop this behavior. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, no legit healthcare worker would ever diagnose you without seeing you. They wouldn't take your mom's word that she believes you have BPD. That doesn't mean your mom didn't lie and tell them you were already diagnosed and just wants help with dealing with it. I think if your own therapist isn't concerned that you have BPD then you can ignore your mom's nonsense. Just grey rock your mom until you can move out. Reply, yes, I'm just guessing because this is new info to me too, but I suspect my mom would have inferred that I was diagnosed. Most likely, presented it to the therapist as parents looking to support with the already confirmed diagnosis. Can OOP move out of her parents' house? Reply, I currently don't have the resources, the housing where I am, Ontario, is pretty bad and really expensive. Commenter 2, psychologist here. There is no way any legit psychologist would diagnose you without talking with you. Your parents may believe you have it, but why? Are they psychologists? Or do they just find dealing with emotions difficult so they slap this label on you? Regardless, they are not safe for you to be around. You are walking on eggshells to hide any emotion you have, and being emotional is a normal human reaction to both graduation and SA. I would worry that they want to have you involuntarily committed and are building a case. Please find somewhere else to stay, relatives, friends, even a shelter will be safer for you. Low contact or no contact with parents. Take care OP. Reply, I'm going to puke thinking ABT them trying to build a case against me. I am very scared that they will provoke me into having an outburst and then call the police. I am trying to avoid talking to them as much as I can to not create potential for an argument. Commenter 3, a therapist should never diagnose you without meeting you. BPD or not, you almost certainly have trauma, CPTSD, which is often misdiagnosed as BPD. It will be extremely difficult to heal while living in the toxicity. If there is any way you can work toward getting out, I would prioritize that. Reply, yeah, I am diagnosed with CPTSD from childhood neglect. They still refuse to reflect on their part in that. I have been on Prozasine for 5 years now to combat it and had my dosage upped when I was raped. Stories number 12. Wife arrested for shoplifting. As the title says, however, something doesn't seem right. My wife was shopping at a local Giant. She uses the Scan It app to scan things so she can just scan the app at self-checkout at the end and pay. After paying today, she was grabbed for an audit, and they apparently found what they told her was a large discrepancy. She was prepared to pay the difference as she thought she had made a mistake, but they told her they had to wait for a manager. Then the police showed up and arrested my wife and separated her from my 7-year-old daughter. The arresting officer called me telling me I had to come get my daughter and that my wife was arrested for an alleged $800 in retail theft. I can't even imagine what would be that much. When I went to the store to get my daughter, they allowed me to take the groceries that were paid for, but would not give me any information or any receipts until court, including a receipt for the food they let me keep. The arresting officer will also not let me see the receipt for the paid for food as it is for his evidence. My wife has honestly never done anything like this in her life, and I truthfully believe this is a mistake because I've always sent her any extra money we've needed for extra groceries. I feel like some sort of critical information is missing, or there is something wrong with the way the app scanned the food. I also feel like my wife offering to pay the difference should prove she didn't have intent to steal anything. She was with my daughter and can easily be distracted by her in the store. When my wife got home, she looked over the groceries and told me what it looked like they had taken: chicken, beef, energy drinks, and I cannot fathom how it would be $800. As the officer said, but I have no solid number because no one will give me a receipt. My daughter also adamantly agrees that mommy scanned everything with the app. They wouldn't give my wife any chance to explain herself or explain anything to me. But I really don't think my wife did anything wrong. Have mistakes like this ever happened? We're going to speak to a lawyer on Tuesday, but I can't stop thinking something doesn't add up here. Edit, thank you all. I understand why people are so quick to assume she did it, and am also prepared that I may learn something about my wife I didn't know. But my confusion relies on my trust of her, how extremely out of character it would be for her to do something like this. We will be meeting with our lawyers and we'll see what comes in discovery. Thank you all again. Especially for wanting to dive into our finances, rolling on the floor laughing. Seriously, it's just the weird way we've been doing things our whole lives together. Stories number 13. Aita for wearing a different colored bridesmaid dress after the bride tried to purposely make us look unflattering. Recently, I, 28F, was a bridesmaid in my friend Tara, 28F, and Tony's, 30M, wedding, along with bridesmaids Amy, 27F, Jane, 29F, and her sister Lily, 32F. Tara was one of those brides where everything had to be perfect, so early on, Tara placed her priority on the logistics. Because of this, Tara had left the details about the bridesmaid dresses for last. Tara had organized a lunch for us in April to talk over the details of the dresses. She handed out swatches and said that the dresses must be in that color and floor length. I asked Tara if she was being serious, to which Tara asked what the problem was. Simply put, the color was ugly and unflattering. Jane also spoke up and said that this color is going to make everyone in the party look bad. Amy also agreed. Tara rolled her eyes at us and said that she was sure and she expected us as bridesmaids to go along with what she wanted. Lily decided to chime and say that she thought the color was fine. I think that she said this to prevent her younger sister from going full bridezilla. For months, Amy, Jane and I begged Tara to consider a different color, but she wouldn't budge. We asked Lily to ask her sister to reconsider, but she said that she was the bride, and that we should respect her choices. Yeah, no shit, she was the bride, but that doesn't mean that we have to sacrifice the way we look, and look unattractive. Amy pointed out that Tara was probably making us look bad on purpose, so that she could look better, and that made me furious. And here's where I may be in the wrong. Amy, Jane and I decided that enough was enough and that Tara was being really unreasonable about this whole thing, and so was Lily. So we decided to lie to Tara and say that we were going to order dresses in the color she wanted and sent her screenshots of dresses in that color. Meanwhile, the three of us created a separate group chat and decided to order dresses that would actually make us look good. We agreed on baby blue and bought the dresses online. Tara didn't ask any more questions about the dresses and essentially just took our word that everything was okay. Flash forward to wedding day. The moment we put on our dresses, Tara lost her shit. She started yelling at us and crying, and Lily had to escort her out of the room. Apparently she must have gotten ready elsewhere, because we didn't see her up until we were called to go to the venue for the ceremony. The wedding was great, but Tara was upset. Since the wedding, none of us have heard from Tara. However, Lily and Tony have been texting me, calling us horrible people and claiming we ruined the wedding. Tony even said that Tara almost cancelled the whole thing, and he had to force her to go through with it. Maybe Tara was upset that we didn't get the color that she asked for, but I don't think it was right for her to make us look unattractive. Aita. Selected comments. Info: what was the color? Reply: terracotta. Reply: to all the Redditors who are saying that it was a fall wedding, ever think she chose that theme as an excuse? Just saying. Second post: my friends went behind my back and ruined my wedding. Post text removed by moderators, text retrieved via Arctic Shift. Hi everyone. This is my first time posting on Reddit. I found this forum and I just need to vent. A little over a week ago, I married the love of my life. For the most part, the wedding was everything I dreamed it would be. I wish I could say that our wedding wasn't ruined. I wish I could look past the bad. However, my bridesmaids went behind my back and decided to lie to me and embarrass me. I had 4 bridesmaids. 3 of them were good friends of mine, and the other one was my sister, who was the maid of honor. I could have asked other, better friends of mine to be my bridesmaids, but unfortunately, they were booked and didn't have time to be bridesmaids with their schedules, so they attended as guests. So, I picked 3 of my other friends. Looking back, it would have been way better to just have my sister as a bridesmaid. I wish I could go back in time and slap myself. When the wedding planning started, my friends didn't put much effort into helping me, which was the first red flag. However, I kind of just sucked it up and did mostly everything myself. A few months later, I got my bridesmaids together and told them the requirements for the bridesmaids' dresses. I told them that they would have to pay for it themselves, since me and my husband were pretty much paying for everything else, and that the dresses would have to be long in terracotta burnt earthy orange. I provided swatches as well so they would have a reference. This was the biggest issue. Other than my sister, who had no issues with the dress, my other bridesmaids were whining about how ugly the color was and how they wanted me to pick something else. My wedding was fall-themed, so the dresses, decor, tables, place settings, invitations, florals, suits, etc., were meant to be in the orange-brown color palette, hence the color of the dresses. Several times after this, my bridesmaids would be texting me asking me to change the color of the dress. Their biggest complaint was that the color made them look ugly, which in all honesty I don't think it did. Plus, I had already planned out the color scheme with virtually everything else, so it wouldn't make any sense to change the color. Finally, later on they stopped complaining about the color and sent me screenshots of the dresses that they had bought online, which were all in an earthy orange tone. When they did this, I really thought that they had stepped up as friends and wanted to make me happy. I would have never thought that they were sabotaging me. I asked them if the dresses fitted correctly and if they needed any adjustments hemming, which I was happy to pay for them, but the three of them said the dresses fit fine. I trusted them blindly. The morning of the wedding, my bridesmaids arrive with all of their stuff and we start getting ready. Hair and makeup are done, the weather is nice, the wedding jitters are coming in, I felt giddy but happy and excited to finally be married to my partner. Then comes time to put on the bridesmaids' dresses. My friends reach into their bags and pull out their dresses, which were in the color light blue. I was shocked. I asked them why the dresses were blue, as that wasn't the dress I asked them repeatedly to buy. One of my bridesmaids said that terracotta was an ugly color and that they thought blue would be a better color. I asked them, but what about the screenshots that they sent me? Apparently it was to get me off of their back. I was in tears at this point and asked them why the hell they would lie to me. One of the other bridesmaids then accused me of trying to make them look bad on purpose so that they wouldn't outshine me. I told them that wasn't true and I was just going for a fall-themed wedding. My sister and I went to a separate room because the conversation was escalating and I was getting more and more upset. My sister had to console me, and my husband consoled me over the phone. After I was able to get ready, we all made it to the venue for the ceremony. The car ride was silent. At this point, I didn't care anymore, I just wanted to get married. The bridesmaids, aside from my sister, stood out like a sore thumb. I'm really hoping that they weren't too much of a distraction to the guests during the wedding, but it's no doubt that they were a distraction all right. The photos with the entire wedding party in it obviously sucked. My photographer said that she would try and Photoshop the dresses, but still. I really wanted to uninvite them from the reception, but I had already paid for their seats' table settings, and I didn't want that to go to waste. The reception was a lot better, but I had to still deal with the disrespectful attitude from my bridesmaids. They were talking during my sister's speech, my dad's speech. One of them made comments about how blue was definitely her color, to which the others laughed. My sister had to shut them down multiple times. They also continued their accusations about how I was sabotaging the way they looked. I didn't have the strength to argue with them. I just wanted to enjoy my wedding. Since the wedding, I haven't talked to my 3 bridesmaids, and I don't really plan on keeping them as friends anymore. Yes, at the end of the day the color isn't going to be the biggest deal about your wedding, let alone your marriage. But it's the fact that they lied to me, put their selfish needs in front of my needs, and the fact that they were disrespectful towards me in something that me and my husband had put a lot of thought into. It sucks because the vast majority of the wedding was wonderful, but there is a glaring stain over it, that was caused by my so-called friends. Update by second poster. Hi everyone, wow, thank you for so much support and well wishes. Currently I'm okay. I'm with my husband and I'm trying to forget about the whole dress ordeal and just enjoy married life. For some reason, the mods removed my post, so I'll just relay the information through here, on my page, if anyone happens to see this. Someone said that I should wear a white dress to all 3 of their weddings. It's funny, but I don't plan on attending any of their weddings, and like I said before, I'm limiting my contact with them. Many people were saying that I should have just kicked the 3 of them out and had my sister as a bridesmaid, which isn't a bad idea. However, it was all about having an even number of bridesmaids to groomsmen, as there were 4 groomsmen as well. To those asking why my other friends couldn't be a bridesmaid, but yet could attend the wedding, in case you didn't know, being a bridesmaid involves more than just being there for one day. And no, when I asked my bridesmaids, I didn't see them as lesser friends than my other ones, they are all just close friends of mine from different parts of my life. And finally, apparently according to the comments, there is a post out there, supposedly posted by one of my bridesmaids detailing this whole ordeal. The comments are saying that my story matches up with their story. I wasn't able to find it, yet, but I'll keep looking because oh my god. No, I'm not deleting any comments like people are suggesting. This is my first time logging back on since I posted, so I don't know what's going on. P.S. If anyone could message me the link, that would be great too. It's a lot easier than looking through hundreds of posts on Reddit about bridesmaids' dresses. Update, I found the post. Yeah, all of the details line up. unless there was another person out there who had 3 if their bridesmaids were blue instead of terracotta. The ages line up too, unless the ages were fake too. I don't even know what to say. Or if I should say anything at all. Based on the age the poster put down, I'm pretty sure I know which one of them posted it. Like I said before, I'm limiting my contact with them, which is why I'm not even sure if I should comment on her post or message her. I'm seething right now. The fact she wrote an entire post bragging about what she and the other 2 did is icky. Update, okay, I decided to make a comment. Nothing special, just relaying a lot of stuff that was already said here, and plus I had already said enough on my wedding day. Stories number 14, Aita for causing my MIL to sell her new house. To start with some background, MIL lives in Arizona and bought a new house sight unseen about an hour away from me, 31F, and my husband, 37M, in Idaho about a year and a half ago. After closing she comes up from Arizona and is furious at the state of the house, which in all honesty isn't bad. It's mostly just cosmetic things, clean up the yard, paint the walls, redo the stained flooring, etc. My husband and I are both very handy with remodels and we offered to help. She calms down and agrees to stay. After a few weeks of making the hour drive out there, we've done a few things like removing carpet, trimming trees, cleaning the rooms from 10 years of dust build-up, and sanding the kitchen cabinets for painting. Looking back on this, she never actually thanked us for any of that help. It was more like she just expected it. She still didn't feel like the place was fit to live in, despite again just knowing it was only cosmetic work it needed. About a year ago, my FIL, divorced from MIL and remarried to stepmother for 16 years, was diagnosed with ALS. Husband and I shift gears to start helping FIL and stepmother with a bunch of remodeling to accommodate a wheelchair. One of the things FIL asked us to help with was to build a she shed for stepmother. FIL passed about 3 months ago. It was incredibly hard on my husband and stepmother as it was not an easy passing. During this time, we obviously had not worked on MIL's house and she was back in Arizona finishing up her job before retiring anyways. She retired a couple weeks after FIL passed and came back up to stay with us for about 5 weeks, again not feeling like the new house was livable. Husband is tense during this time, really just kind of angry at everything, and MIL kept making negative comments about FIL and stepmother, all of which I tried to shield my husband from as best I could. I was playing referee between them. Now in the last 3 months we have been trying to finish up the she shed, flooring, skylights, drywall, the works. While also working on our own bathroom remodel due to a leak we had 2 months ago. I could tell MIL has not been happy with the time we've been spending at stepmother's place and not at hers. MIL came up again on Monday and again stayed with us with the intention of getting the new house in a condition for her to move in. Husband and I were putting the finishing touches on the she shed on Monday, Tuesday and told her we would be completely free to work on her place after this week. TBH, we really weren't paying her the level of attention we normally do since we were both so busy with work and getting the shed done. Yesterday I was making lunch and she came in and wanted to chat with me. She made a few comments about us helping, that women, referring to stepmother, and how needy she must be, and how her mom, husband GMA, was blaming my husband for allowing MIL to buy a house that needed too much work and how we didn't have time to help her. I snapped. She's made these comments a lot before and I brushed them off, so I'm not sure why they bothered me so much this time. I told her that husband and I are doing our best to help everyone we care about, including stepmother. And I told her that SHE was the one who decided to buy that new house sight unseen despite my husband recommending against it, and she should be taking accountability for her choices and not putting them on her son. I also stated that there was plenty of neediness going around and that stepmother wasn't the only one. This might have been the asshole part, as I could tell she wasn't happy that I was basically accusing her of being needy too. But MIL decided to immediately pack her bags and leave. I did apologize and I told her she didn't have to go. She said she did and we could talk to her again after we have time and are done with all our projects, and, that woman. She texted today to say she is emptying the new house and will be selling it. Which is honestly fine by me considering it's less work for us. But part of me feels like an asshole for snapping yesterday and causing this rash decision. Part of me also feels guilty for not getting her house ready sooner, but then another part of me is frustrated that she couldn't just get over the need for fresh paint on the walls or do it herself if she needed it so badly. Painted walls to make a space livable just doesn't seem as necessary as a wheelchair ramp or a promise to a dying man to help him finish a project for his wife. Though I could see where she felt pushed aside because of this. So, AIT, relevant comments. OOP responds to a longer comment regarding about being unpaid and unappreciated for the work she and her husband did on MIL's new house. Reply, yes exactly, unpaid, and I definitely got the impression that she felt our time spent with others was stolen from her. She did raise my husband, so I think that's where some of the entitlement is coming from, but his dad loved him too and was a kind man. And yeah, the whole non-contact threat was part of what was making me feel guilty too, but agree I shouldn't be feeling guilty for sticking up for my husband and I. Just hard when I don't want to cause my husband any more stress, and I hate that his mother can't see that, but I appreciate your kind words and advice. I'll definitely be looking up manipulation by splitting and triangulation. My husband and I luckily did have a long conversation afterwards where we both agreed that we never wanted to end up being constantly negative, like my parents and his mom recently have been, and we would both ensure we hold each other accountable moving forward to be more positive. So despite the craziness, we seem to be coming out stronger together and hopefully breaking this cycle. Commenter 2, does your mill often make rash impulsive decisions, or is there something going on with her? Reply, that's a good question. My husband and I were actually talking about this today. She does have a tendency to make rash decisions, but not usually this big. Usually she just spends too much money on random things she sees on TV. She has been having some health issues over the last couple years, and we thought that was likely why she made the first rash decision to buy the house to be closer to us. OOP clarifies on the locations MIL has her home and the new house in. Reply, her place in Arizona is about 17 hours away by car. She bought a new place about an hour away from where we are now in Idaho. The new place is what we were working on. Commenter 3, NTA, I'd feel like tallying up cost of material improvements and labor hours and sending her a bill. Reply, my husband actually started doing this in a moment of pettiness this morning and had to stop before we both got too angry. We spent over $2,000 in materials over the last year alone, new water heater install included that we paid for and she never paid us back for. Not to mention labor time. All the comments here are definitely helping me realize just how much we did for free without any appreciation. OOP on her husband's thoughts regarding his mother and how she needs to take her husband's lead. Reply, yes, he's actually even more angry about it than I am and even told me, I told you my mom wasn't a saint, lol. I think I was just subconsciously ignoring a lot of bad behavior as I didn't want to cause a rift between my husband and his mom, and be blamed for it like so many DILs. But according to my husband, that rift has been there since he was a kid and has only gotten worse. I didn't want him experiencing more pain than necessary this year given his dad's passing, but unfortunately it seems it was inevitable regardless of my intervention. No more, fix everything for everyone, mentality for me. LOL. Commenter 4, why does stepmother, need a she shed? She has the whole house to herself. Reply, she's actually sharing the house with her granddaughter, my husband's niece-in-law. It's not a huge house and FIL had promised her a place to do her crafts, kiln setup, etc. So it was something he had been designing for her and had literally just broken ground on the foundation for it when he received his diagnosis. The ALS progressed rapidly, so with a few weeks of starting on the foundation he was already using a walker, then a wheelchair a few weeks after that. He had planned to do it all himself until the ALS took over. Update. About 6 months ago I posted about my MIL threatening to sell her house after I snapped at her over comments she was making about my husband and his stepmom after his father passed. A lot of you pointed out that she was using us for free labor and were totally right. I appreciate all the advice given and words of encouragement. Now for the update, we hadn't heard a peep from MIL at all these last months, until a week and a half ago. My husband and I were on a flight to Peru and she literally texted that she was on the way to our house. No call. No asking if we were free, just that she was already halfway through the 16-hour drive from her Arizona house to our place. We were on a layover at this point and both just stunned. My husband waited to respond until the next day because he was so upset and just said, "We are in Peru," in a text to her, where she just responded that she figured we might be gone. We talked it over that morning and stupidly agreed that we should extend an olive branch since she drove all that way and tell her she could stay at our place, stupidly thinking it would be a night or two. She said she would, didn't even say thank you, since she had a long 24 hours and would be working on her house in Tico. Apparently she never sold it, though I'm not surprised. Since then, again about a week and a half ago, she is still at our house. We have cameras on our place so we can see who comes and who goes. She hasn't left for more than an hour, so we know she isn't going to her Tico house since that's an hour drive one way. She hasn't said anything to us, not even to ask when we will be back. Our cat sitter is still coming by the house to clean litter boxes and feed our cats and mentioned to me that Miles switched the cat food. My husband immediately texted her and told her to switch it back since our cats are on special digestive-friendly food so they don't puke all over the place. She never responded to him, but our cat sitter confirmed the food was switched back. So at this point, I'm at a loss for what to do. I know she is still going to be there when we get back on Saturday and I'm absolutely fucking dreading it. We've had an exhausting, though very fun, trip of hiking and biking and I just want to relax before going back to work. But I'm also torn because I don't want to be an asshole and tell her she needs to leave. My husband is in the same boat and we both know she's probably going to try get us to work on her house again, and we both agreed there is no way in hell we will given how she's acted, refused to apologize, and has taken advantage of us especially this last week and a half. So, any advice on how I can politely tell her to leave before we get back? The last thing I want is to send a text that she will forward to my husband's whole family to tell them how horrible we are for kicking her out. Not that he seems too worried by that, but he hasn't had contact with any family on her side for months and it breaks my heart to see. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, tell her you were surprised to learn that she's still in your house, as it was merely a stopover after a long 24 hours, and ask her what her intentions are. I would not give any information about your plans or returning to work. She initiated this visit without any consultation or discussion after not talking for months. She arrived at your house while you were away, availed of your hospitality over the long 24 hours she had. But a week and a half later she's still there without asking or even informing you of her plans. I would get hubby to ask her to explain the basics even, as a common courtesy. Hello, as you are still using our house, what are your plans as we are due to return soon? Reply, this is super helpful and a good way to go about it without directly telling her she needs to leave at first, though we will definitely do that afterwards. I appreciate this advice and will use it. Thank you. OOP should go NC with MIL. Reply, we did go no contact for about 6 months and thought she wanted to resolve things. But the lack of communication on her part says no, and we should have seen that from when she came up with no warning. We thought this time she might actually stay at her Tico house, but clearly we were wrong and just wishful thinking. I completely agree about not owing families anything though. I've been no contact with my own mom for the last 3 years. While I don't regret it because of the crap she pulled, there are times I do miss having a mother figure. Honestly, I was the one that encouraged my husband to extend the olive branch. He didn't want to, so the fault lies with me. But I just wanted to give her every chance I could to prevent him from losing the one real family member he has left, no siblings or uncles, aunts, etc. It's literally just him and his mom now. Though now just him and me. Tiny update, I did as you suggested. Husband texted her asking her what her plans are since we saw on the cameras that she was still there and we thought it would only be a night or two. She hasn't responded, but we saw on the cameras that she started packing her bags into her car. She hasn't left just yet though. I'm honestly wondering if she just forgot that we have cameras, they are small, and probably asked our cat sitter when we would be back, with plans to possibly leave before then knowing she had about 2.5 weeks. We will give it another day and try contacting her again if no movement. Enjoying the time we have left in Peru in the meantime, smiley face. Stories number 15. So, my ex-fiancé, M30, has cancelled our, F30, wedding a week before it taking place. We've been together for about 6 years and lived together for context. What happened basically was an argument that escalated. We were heading to my program graduation, it's a smaller event of about 10 students and some professors from a community college. On that morning as we were getting ready, I asked if he would be okay to wear one of his button-ups instead of the shirt he had on so we can get a nice photo. He was annoyed and snapped saying, "Why do I have to do things for others?" And I told him that he truly doesn't have to, I was just asking, but it's ultimately his choice. He ended up putting the button up and we arrived at the ceremony. Everything went fine and he was very happy for me. However, on the way home in the car, traffic was filling up and he was annoyed. I offered an alternative route that I know cut some time and the exit to that route was coming up. He didn't take it and I was slightly annoyed about it because he was cranky with me about traffic. So, I asked why he didn't take it. He started full on yelling that my tone is rude and that he doesn't have to drive the way I tell him to. I replied saying that I literally just asked and I don't actually care what route he takes, he was the one having a problem with traffic. He blew up and blamed me for getting him upset. When we got home, I apologized and explained that I didn't mean to come across as mean. I also said that screaming doesn't help in any situation and that we should talk instead. He basically explained that an apology doesn't solve anything and that he needs such things to not happen, otherwise he would continue exploding at me because that's the only time I listened to him. After a few hours we spoke again, he apologized for yelling and I apologized for the miscommunication that happened. Despite resolving this, later that night, I was crying due to the fact that he so easily yells at me when he's upset. I was so upset that even on such an important day for me, I felt like he picked fights. And to add to this, yelling is such a red flag for me and I never do that to him or anyone for that matter. The next morning we were having breakfast and he asked why I seemed gloomy, so I told him that everything's okay, I'm just processing what happened yesterday. He asked me to please share with him, so I told him that I felt like my special day was kind of ruined by fighting about things we could have easily resolved. He immediately just flipped and started getting angry again. He blamed me for the fights, and when I replied that I don't think it's fair to blame me, he got angrier and said that he can't do this, that I'm not a good communicator and that he cannot get married like this. I was full on shocked. I thought he was talking out of emotion, like many times before, but this time he actually ended up sending a mass text to some guests to let them know that the wedding is called off. I was flabbergasted at the quickness and so confused. We started arguing and then had to leave for our days. Later that day when we returned, I asked if this is truly something he wants, to call everything off, and he responded with a confident yes. What I thought was an action out of anger, seemed to be solid for him. For the rest of the night and the next day, I tried to fix things between us. After many hours of talking and lots of crying from my end, he kept explaining that I don't communicate well and that this cancellation my fault. I tried to offer some solutions, but he was full on with the decision to cancel and break up. I asked if we could give it another day or two to ensure this is what he wants before we cancel the venue. He declined and asked to cancel the venue and vendors immediately. So we did. The next day, I went on errands and then met with my friend. It was truly such a hard day and I was heartbroken, still digesting this is happening. When I came home, he asked to talk and started crying that he regrets everything he said in the last days. That he didn't mean it, he was angry and didn't think straight. He said he will start therapy and wanted to do couples counseling now too, after I offered it many times. Anyway, he apologized profusely and kept asking if we can mend everything or whether he fucked up. I was almost sure this regret would come, and honestly, maybe it was mean, but I said, yeah, you fucked up big time. You made a rash decision that hurt our relationship big time. There's no going back from here. He pretty much begged for another chance, but everything is cancelled and my trust is shattered. The wedding's supposed to be in 2 days, his aunt was supposed to be on the way to our house to help us pack decorations, and now, there's no way we can schedule everything again, and frankly, I don't want to at this point. This is not the first he cancels plans or breaks up with me during a disagreement. Everyone is telling us that this is fixable, that clearly we love each other, so if we want, this situation doesn't have to be the end of the relationship. But I don't understand how. So much time, effort and money has gone into this wedding that's now done. And plus, more importantly, I can't trust him anymore. I don't know what to do at this point. We were supposed to go on honeymoon right after, so now I'm thinking I'm going by myself. He asked if we can go together and spend that time to fix things, but I'm just questioning everything. I think I prefer going myself to do some soul searching. Should I call this quits and move on with my life, or take his word and start couples counseling? I love him with my entire heart and we had many loving experiences between us over the years. We don't have any issues aside from such incidents, but I don't know whether it's actually possible to come back from this one. Comments. Commenter 1. You don't want to marry this man and he's doing you a huge favor. Huge. Find a place to live, extricate yourself financially from him, and thank your lucky stars you're not going to waste a decade with a man who screams at you all the time before you get that divorce. God forbid you have kids with him. Commenter 2. Like, he yells at the drop of a hat. If he's annoyed by traffic, it's her fault. If she suggests a route home, he gets angry. He asks her why she's gloomy, and as soon as she answers, his immediate reaction, like a toddler, is to just crack it. And then he has the stones to say she isn't communicating. I mean, there's gaslighting, and then there's actually setting your partner on fire like this pinecone. Go on that honeymoon without him. Or send him on it and use the time to pack your stuff and move out. This is not a person worth fighting for. You've just been given a get-out-of-jail-free card, take it and run. Update. For everyone who attempted to talk some sense into me, you all have no idea how many times the comments in the original post saved me from going back and second-guessing myself. You literally saved me. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. The moment I stepped back fully, I felt so much more like myself, a confident, lively, and silly version of myself. I missed her so much, and to add to it, my 31st birthday felt like a complete rebirth. Almost a year later, I'm somehow the happiest I've ever been. My entire life fell apart, and I struggled immensely, but surprise. Everything worked out. Now I'm in a new relationship, and it feels so peaceful, which took a lot of adjusting, too. The ex feels like a past life. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For anyone reading this, please leave the abusive relationship. If you're questioning whether it's abusive, the odds of it being so are high. Your sanity, mental wellness, and physical health matter. Don't forget that. It does get better, not only in movies. Comments. Commenter 1. I'm so happy to read this update. Your ex canceling such a big event and holding it hostage because he didn't want to accept criticism of his behavior is so toxic. I'm glad you found a new relationship that makes you feel peaceful and secure. Have you heard from your ex at all? How did the breakup go? if you don't mind me asking. Reply, he moved out, and then we met on the day of the wedding for a closure conversation. Lots of crying and we kissed for the last time. Thankfully, I felt nothing. This is how I knew it was over. He continued wanting to get back together and started intensive therapy with the support of his family. We stayed in contact for a bit before I realized it didn't feel good, so we cut contact. He remained hopeful of reconciliation but respectful of my wishes to stop communication. Commenter 2. Honestly, that's about as good of an outcome as someone in this situation could hope for. The fact that you recognized the contact was bringing you pain and made a conscious decision to step away from that is not an easy thing to do. You should be proud of yourself. Reply, truly, the best outcome. Many said, thank your lucky stars, and now I understand. Thanks for the support. Smiley face. Commenter 3. I'm proud of you. Commenter 4. So happy for you OP, nothing but great things ahead. Did you end up going on the honeymoon trip alone? Enjoy your peaceful life. Reply, I did. So freeing. Replied to another comment about this, appreciate the warm words so much. Commenter 5. Like the kids say these days, he FAFO'd hard. What a tough lesson he had to learn. As for you, wow, you should be so proud of yourself, I'm so happy for you. Reply, appreciate the love. Both of us learned some tough lessons, but I'm grateful it happened. He made me capable of handling such deep emotional pain that I'm not even scared of anything else anymore. Stories number 16. Aita for telling Mil she isn't entitled to a set schedule with our daughter. Huge rant, Aita. I'm 37 weeks pregnant and my husband's mom seems to be making my pregnancy about her. For context, Mil is incredibly excited to be a first, and possibly only, time grandma. Additionally, hubby's brother passed away when we were young adults, so hubby is now an only child. Mil still has a very hard time with the loss of her first son, and hubby is now the last of his family name until our girl enters as the next generation, so the grandchild pressure has always been huge on us. Edit, to add to the relevance of family loss, our daughter is due on Mil's late son's husband's late brother's birthday. I can't help but feel like Mil is making my pregnancy about her. In the beginning, we asked her specifically not to tell anyone until we decided to tell people, and within seconds of us telling her, she had her phone in her hand and was texting family. She's also a hairdresser and told every single one of her clients that she was going to be a grandma. She thrifted literally one of everything for her house without consulting us. She had a grandma shower with some of her old ladies who she cuts hair for at a convalescent home, and reported to me, not asking, that she's going to be bringing my daughter there and letting all the ladies take turns holding my kid whenever she does hair there. She fully expects to be in the delivery room with me, not happening. I might not even want guests at the hospital. Hubby and I went to dinner with her tonight and tried to manage her expectations a bit. It didn't go well. She kept telling us she is taking our child every Friday, we didn't even get a say in the day. It's just her day off. Hubby said, maybe when we're both back to work. She said, no, right away. Every Friday I'm either taking her or sleeping over your house. He said, what if we want a Friday with our daughter? She said, no. Fridays are my day with my granddaughter. I was so mad that I blurted out, are you going to file for joint custody too? You don't get to choose. I feel badly for being rude, but I honestly can't believe her entitlement that she thinks she gets a set schedule with our child who isn't even born yet. I'm not even going to get started on the fact that she is constantly referencing the way she parented as the standard, and some of the practices are incredibly antiquated, and is pretty condescending when I have a dissenting opinion. This is possibly unfair psychoanalysis stemming from my rage, but it's taking everything in me to not tell her that she is not my child's parent and she can't use my child to fill the void from her own child loss, so she needs to back off, enjoy the privilege of being a grandparent, and let us be the parents. I know when baby gets here that I'll be welcoming help and advice, even from her, and much of this is me being angry and overprotective as a first-time parent. Aita for feeling this way and thinking these things. Edit to add, whoa. I didn't expect so many replies. Thank you all for your insight. I wanted to add, for those who asked about my husband's handling his mother, I got up and left the table at dinner and my husband was very straightforward with Mil that she needs to erase any expectation and entitlement that she has in her mind because we are not committing to any plans or accommodating any other people's schedules when our daughter arrives. She pushed back in the beginning but ultimately agreed and was much better for the rest of dinner. We will continue to express our boundaries, and if there is another overstep from her regarding expectations, we'll take more dramatic measures. Stories number 17. 40F grossed out over nearly everything my husband, 40M, does. How do I get over it? I, 40F, and my husband, 40M, have been together since high school. We have built a financially stable and respectful relationship. He is a great father and role model to our young children. He does equal share around the house, laundry, cooking, parenting, etc. Over the past 3 to 5 years, I'm continuously finding him less and less attractive. We've been to counseling together over this. And we've had many peaceful conversations, but nothing seems to improve, from my perspective. I'm going to list a few examples, and before Reddit jumps on me saying these things are stupid, please understand we've been together for a long time, and all the little things eventually snowball into big things. He forgets about 70% of our conversations. I'm having to give him reminder receipts on everything we've talked about. He snores while awake, literally. His face and hair smell so bad, to me, anyways. I'm pretty sure it's just his bodily oils. When he wants attention, he gets really immature and starts talking in a baby voice. He leaves boogers and skin flakes in around the sink. I could go on with more examples, but let's not keep you here forever. We have talked about every single one of these things, and more. If there could be a medical issue, he's been to a doctor. Everything is fixable, but it's not being fixed. I know I'm not perfect. But these things seem to irritate me to my core. I feel like screaming at the top of my lungs, bashing my head through a wall. That's dramatic, but I feel desperate. This cannot be the rest of my life. How do I get over this? Or what can we further do so we can live happily the rest of our lives? Edit. This is really blowing up and I'm thankful for everyone's comments. Keep commenting. I think a lot of us are finding community, and can resonate with one another. Even in the disagreements, there's quite a bit of valuable information. There's a lot of actionable items I am considering as I plan my next move. More medical checkup, specialist appointments, therapy, HRT, big girl conversations, etc. Many balls are up in the air, and I will come back to do an update once I have the ducks in a row. Stories number 18. Aita for calling the ambulance for my coworker even though I know she was kind of faking it. I, 28M, am working in an English language center in a Southeast Asian country. There's a female coworker in her 20s here who often touches her head and wobbles like she was about to faint, and she would lie down on the couch, letting people fan her, bring water and food to her. We take midday naps here, so whenever she does this, everyone's lunch and nap time is ruined, especially the ones who keep caring for her. This would happen at least twice a month, so over the last 5 or 6 months, I've seen a few incidents when we worked the same shift. One time she even asked me to order ice cream for her. Info: it's a big, crowded city, so you can just walk to the ice cream shop nearby to grab one for $1. Didn't pay me back, but that's beside the point. This Monday, she did it again, and this time she asked a girl to order her an iced drink, a sandwich. A group of coworkers fanned her, did the whole caring thing like she's a sick child. I stood up from my chair, walked towards her, asked if she was okay, then I went to the men's washroom, dialed for an ambulance and went back to my seat. After 20 minutes, we heard the siren, my phone rang again, and I stood up and told her servants to help her to the ambulance. Her face changed, you know, that face, when someone knows they've get up. Other girls asked if I called, I said yeah, it seems more severe this time. It's best for her to go. The ambulance is here already, you'll have to pay for it regardless. The ambulance fee is about 1 to 2 days worth of her salary, $50. Other co-workers actually agreed and helped her get on the ambulance. Now that I think of it, no one called an ambulance for her once. Ever since that incident, she stopped interacting with me beyond highs and hellos. Thursday now, not a word to me. Aita for this. Comments. Commenter, NTA. Thanks for a funny story. Reply, half of me thinks it's funny but half of me feels guilty because she probably paid 2 days worth of her salary on the ambulance. Commenter, she probably hadn't been paying anyone else back for things like drinks and food. So I figure the fee for the ambulance was her tax. Reply, oh, I should DM other coworkers to see if she's paid them back. It's just $1 or $2 though. Commenter, I'm gonna disagree with everyone here. YTA, ambulances are meant to save lives and not deal with petty squabbles. That said, from the title alone I would have agreed with you, as you don't know if someone is faking or not, but you have deliberately hid the fact that you're calling for it, didn't ask her if it's needed, etc. Also, I would like to point out that, while she does seem to be faking it and in general acts like an asshole, her reaction to the ambulance could be due to the cost, so it is no proof of faking it. Reply, which is why I posted. I secretly called so she couldn't disagree to it. Maybe she's actually not faking it and it is of a sensitive topic, severe menstruation as some people suggested. But you can't deny that she's been abusing it a little bit. Turned out some coworkers haven't get their money back yet from buying her stuff as she demanded to. Editor's note, these comments are chronological, so OOP'd med the coworkers between answering the last comment and this one. Commenter, damn, this is something I actually want an update on. After that incident, did she stop her faking for a bit? Did she continue? I feel like if she stopped for a bit, you should tell your coworkers the ambulance trick worked and they need to do it. Every time you see her you should be annoying and just ask if she is feeling okay. LOL. Reply, it's only been 4 days. Usually she acts up every 2 weeks, sometimes once a week but in a milder way. Tired, headaches, etc. Not fully laying on the couch. It's small update but I texted 2 girls, it turned out she hasn't paid them back food money, but they're teachers so they said it didn't bother them. My workplace is very nice and peaceful otherwise. Commenter, curious how you know she is faking it. Reply, just a hunch really. People in pain and people faking pain look different. It's the subtle details that I cannot really explain. It looks forced, exaggerated. I might be talking out of my ass here but I imagine if someone is in pain and groaning, they would sweat, heat up, or go pale. Again IDK but it feels weird when you see it. Commenter, sorry, but that's just not evidence. Everyone reacts to things and shows things differently. Just because you wouldn't react like that doesn't mean she wouldn't. An example is seizures. They often look very different to how people would expect. On TV they're always exaggerated jerking and shaking. Sometimes they can look like that, but sometimes people go stiff and completely still, sometimes it's tiny like a small muscle contraction, sometimes it looks like zoning out. So if you saw someone zoning out instead of jerking around, would you say they were faking it? Or people react differently to stress. Some people cry. But other people laugh. Would you not believe them because they're not reacting how you would? You have no idea of this woman's history. Maybe she is faking it. Why do you need to be the one to stop it? The people looking after her have minds of their own and you just don't have enough evidence if it's based on a hunch. The ambulance you called was malicious and just to prove a point and teach her a lesson. But you don't know for 100% if she has a medical condition or not. Maybe she does and it is managed by the things you say people help her with. You cannot do that to someone on a hunch. Reply, I agree with your view. Maybe a few more days I'll try to ask about her hospital visit in a polite way. Commenter, ETA. I say this as a personal with chronic illness. Faking obviously sucks. However, I wouldn't want anyone to call an ambulance without my permission if I struggled with my chronic illnesses. Even though the ambulance is free here. Would still annoy me. I am not dying. I faint quite often and have some other issues. I usually sit down, drink some water, and maybe get someone to watch if it gets bad. Emergency services are meant for emergencies, not for being petty. You just wasted their time. Reply, I agree. Was petty of me to bother the hospital. But other than that I don't know what else to do. Confronting her, texting her, talking to other coworkers behind her, staying silent all seem wrong. Commenter, I used to get fainting spells for that reason, and eating a bit and drinking some water would usually help me feel better, but not cured, obviously, so that's what I would go for when it happened. Took about 6 years to get diagnosed. Everyone making a big fuss probably isn't helping the coworker feel better, and OP should probably have gone for, you should go home, before calling an ambulance. Honestly I found it difficult to believe that an ambulance would come unless OP lied to them, they certainly wouldn't have in England. Reply, here, caller provides name, phone number, ID, answer some questions, and ambulance will come. The phone number must match the one registered on your ID. The patient will be charged digitally through their ID scan or by cash, bank transfer, or by a tag-along person. I know this because I went with a relative by ambulance when he got stomachache. Commenter, sorry, I'm just stuck on the fee. Is it $50? And is $50 1 to 2 days of her pay? Reply, yeah, Southeast Asian country. Ambulance is cheap, but salary is also low compared to the US. Actually, most of my foreign relatives book flights to Vietnam for medical care. Diabetes and such. Insulin is cheap here. To another commenter, Vietnam far location is 50, near hospital is 25 actually. Mini update in comments. Oh, I've been asking around. Apparently Miss Faint haven't paid some of the coworkers back their food money, borrowed money from a few people, and asked to have a bite of some people's food. I'm added to a private group chat with 5 other coworkers. I will give update later. Today was a lot for me at work. Another comment, we made a group chat and provided a lot of proof last night. This is an HR problem now and we will notify HR instead of talking directly to her. She has been texting other coworkers and borrowing money to go to the hospital. She exclusively targets female teachers and requires them to not share the matter with others. This is beyond me now, will update after HR solve it. Update post. Here's the update on the female coworker who kept fainting and asking people to order food for her. I'll call her Anne, because there's a lot of women involved in this update. After the first post, I texted some female coworkers to see if they had received food money back. 2 female teachers told me that they hadn't, but they didn't mind. The total amount was around $20 per person. Words got around fast, and I was added to a group of 5 other people, so in total, at least 7 female teachers were affected by Anne. Based on their word, Anne has low blood pressure and malnutrition. She indeed is very thin, K-pop idol type of body. She clearly has some unhealthy relationship with food. It's almost as if she doesn't want to pay for food. She borrowed money from multiple female teachers to pay hospital bills, and begged them to not disclose this information to others. We're talking up to a loan that worths 4 months of salary. She basically borrowed half of that teacher's emergency funds. She also flirted with one female teacher, said teacher often brings her on small dinner dates. I didn't ask on this matter. HR was notified, the girls did the talking, I was called in as the one who called the ambulance. After the meeting, it's confirmed that Anne will be let go after 30 days, the reasoning was creating a hostile workplace environment. This morning was really awkward. Unfortunately, HR cannot help with the loans that people have given her, as it's personal matter. However, HR is willing to provide personal information of Anne to the affected coworkers. Oh well. It's their matter now. Now, answering some comments from the previous post. Some mentioned that I was wasting healthcare resources. Well, she was examined and came back with a diagnosis. Some asked me why everything's so cheap. It's Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. Most things are affordable here except real estate, lol. In fact, my overseas relatives literally book flights to Vietnam for medical care. Insulin here is like $3 to $7 per vial and you can buy it at almost any public or private hospital. If you have national healthcare ID, it's basically free. Some was worried for me because I accidentally slipped my personal social media page on the previous post. I don't really care honestly, I'm considered a valuable asset, and I'm easy to work with. If anything comes up, I think the company and I will be able to solve it peacefully. Editor's note: OOP had linked some TikToks to people asking about the nap situation. Yes, people take midday naps in Vietnam, you're the odd one if you don't. If I'm not standing a class, I'm allowed to be online, doing TikToks, etc. Having a TikTok account is not a legal reason to be let go. There's one Redditor here who was incredibly vindictive and was trying to antagonize me in the DMs. Girl, get a grip, you deliberately ignored all other comments. You're blocked by. And finally, don't lend your coworkers half of your emergency funds. Like why? Comments. Commenter: damn, that's just low to prey on other women like that. Still NTA, you put an end to her abusing your coworkers' kindness. Reply: teachers no less. I literally work with the kindest angels. Commenter: thanks for the update, man, what a wild ride. I like that your feedback of a prank on a pattern of bad behavior turned into this huge unmasking of the extent her harmful behavior. NTA: why diagnosis did they give her? Reply: low blood pressure and malnutrition. Commenter: is it possible she is supporting her parents or family and doesn't have enough money for food for herself? Reply: nah, she doesn't come across as someone who's in need. Her position offers good salary. I think she has a problematic relationship with food more than anything. Maybe a form of eating disorder. Commenter: calling an ambulance for a made-up emergency is illegal for a reason. You wasted resources on an ambulance that could have been used for someone who actually needed it. Next time you want to make a point, do it in a way that doesn't potentially put someone's life in danger. Reply: I don't know your location to judge the scarcity of ambulances, but in Vietnam, hospitals are a dime a dozen. One dispatched ambulance won't be a problem here. Plus, she made up the emergency, not me. I responded to the scene. Additionally, she was in fact clinically diagnosed and provided papers to HR. If it were you, what would you do? Remember, this has been going for 6 months. Stories number 19. Aita for hiding that I'm homeless from my girlfriend. I'm 18 and I'm dating my girlfriend who just turned 20. I've been in foster care since I was 13. I lucked out when I was younger. I had some good homes, but the most recent one I had was really bad. I've been homeless for 1 month now. It's been exhausting hiding it from my girlfriend. One of the jobs I work is at a local martial arts gym in my city, which I sneak back into at night because I have keys for lockup. I am pretty sure the owner knows I'm sleeping here because there are cameras. He hasn't said anything. Sometimes he leaves me food. So I'm doing okay for being homeless. I'm saving up and I'm trying to find another job so I can make money faster and find a place to live. I'm staying out of trouble. I don't drink alcohol and I don't do drugs. My girlfriend lives in a university dorm with a roommate. She goes to a prestigious school that she worked really hard to get into. Tonight, she said I have sad eyes and she asked me if something was wrong. I wanted to break down and tell her everything. Instead, I said I was sleepy and hugged her, then made a joke which distracted her and changed the topic. I know in a relationship, you're supposed to be honest. But I guess I have pride or something. All these years growing up, there were so many times I felt like I had no dignity, so it's really hard for me to let go of this pride or whatever you want to call it. It's hard to explain. Besides, she can't really help me. It would just be adding to her stress. Ada for thinking I can find a place, get settled in, basically fix this problem and then tell her. I see these on TikTok all the time and I know what I'm asking is not the same as wedding drama or marriage drama, but I thought I would give it a shot with this being anonymous and all. Comments. Commenter 1. NTA, but it sounds like you're talking yourself out of opening up to her about this. She might not be able to fix everything, but she can offer support. It sounds like you could really use that right now. Commenter 2. Agreed. Also OP, I'm sorry. I've been homeless, myself, but this. You don't deserve to be 18 dealing with all this. No one does, but you are just in a position I know many go through but I wish no one experienced. Reply, I'm sorry you had to deal with homelessness too. Deep down, I know I am lucky for the circumstances I do have, like the ability to crash at my boss's gym. It's a lot better than a shelter, those honestly scare me. Commenter 3. My now husband was living between friends' houses and a direct provision center when we met. He is a very proud man and was vague or wouldn't discuss where he lived or allow me to drop him anywhere and said things like he was going to visit friends at night. He was always so upbeat and caring towards me that it seemed like a small thing, so I didn't push it. He is also a really hard worker and works day and night. I initially worried he didn't trust me to see his house in case I turned stalker or something. I thought with all the working hours maybe he already had a family or something like that, except he added me on his social media and openly walked around town with me, so that didn't make sense. I totally didn't realize the things he must have been going through till way later, till we had our own place and I accidentally saw an old document he had with the DP address as his address, and it all made sense. Also how he is always helping people he meets who have a had time. Ringing friends and getting them a couch to sleep on, etc. At the time he helped me with any problems I was having, but is very religious and used to tell me that he shared his problems with God, and me being in my little happy self and spending time with him was enough for me to do to help him back. From the woman's perspective I respect him so much. He didn't lie to me, but he kind of made it clear what he did and didn't want to talk about, and I respected and accepted that. I have a good job and my own money, but he always liked to pay for things like if we got coffee, etc. Things were probably very hard for him, but I'm glad I didn't push it and force him to be vulnerable with me about his fears and circumstances, because I know him and that would have damaged his pride in himself. Sorry for the long rambling reply. I suppose what I'm saying is once you don't make her question how you feel about her, it's okay to struggle and be a man and keep your pride in her eyes. Reply. This was really inspiring. I'm really glad you shared this with me. I actually read it over 2 times because it made me feel less bad about myself. I want to be that kind of man one day, like your husband. I try to show up for my girlfriend and the few people in my life. Not as a burden, but someone they can rely on. Normally I'm really good at presenting myself a certain way no matter what's happening to me. I will go as far as to hide injuries, and I think I have a really high pain tolerance now. I'm always smiling and I like to focus on other people, not myself. But lately I'm working a lot more, and even though I have a place to sleep every night, there's this stress that never leaves. So I guess I'm not as convincing as I usually am because I'm too tired. Like. What I'm saying right now, what was the point I was trying to make? I need to sleep, lol. But you said, he didn't lie to me, but he kind of made it clear what he did and didn't want to talk about, and I respected and accepted that. Maybe I could try approaching it somehow like that. Update. Howdy, I just wanted to come back and share that I ended up confiding in my girlfriend about my homelessness. She was devastated for me, but ultimately I'm really glad I pushed myself to tell her the truth. It was really eating at me, and it was a huge relief in itself to no longer be carrying that around on top of everything else. We're still together, also a huge relief. My girlfriend is keeping my homelessness a secret. One thing I haven't shared with her, or anyone really outside of you guys, is that I continue to struggle with feelings of shame and inadequacy about this situation, but I know those are more my internal dialogue and not necessarily how others perceive me, given that they don't really know. I'm trying really hard to keep my head up and maintain my self-worth and convince myself that I'm not trash. I also ended up telling the owner of the gym I've been crashing at what I've been doing. As I suspected, he knew about it but doesn't want to acknowledge it for insurance purposes, so essentially, this conversation didn't happen. He said I can keep doing it given that I find housing ASAP. I have to move on to a new place to sleep if I'm still homeless in a few weeks. I've got 2 places pending that I know are strongly considering me. I'd happily take either one. Affordable housing here is really difficult to come by and very competitive. There's a lot of interest per listing. I started expanding my search area and this helped, although my commute is going to be rough. Comments. Commenter 1. You have people in your life that care about you, keep you head up, you will get through this. Commenter 2. Absolutely, the support OP's gotten proves they're not alone in this, even if it feels like it sometimes. Owning the truth like that takes serious strength, and it's clear they've got people who truly care. One step at a time, they've got this. Commenter 3. Honestly man, I'm so sorry to hear you're going through this and I'm sending you an air hug. Sometimes just being able to confide in people about the awful things that happen to us can be such a source of relief and just help with relieving the intense pressure and stress if nothing else, and even if the problems aren't fixed. Being open about your situation is tough, but for whatever it's worth I'm honestly proud of you for being brave enough to do it. Being 18 in the world is already hard enough, having to face it out of an unpleasant foster situation and with the stack you've been given isn't fair or right, but I can tell from what you've written that you've been fighting to get to where you need to go. You'll get there. You deserve to be happy and have a place to call yours, you deserve to feel safe and get away from the stress you've been under. Reply, thank you so much man, from the bottom of my heart. I'm really glad I posted here. I know we're all strangers but it's been so impactful for me to read comments. Thank you for taking time to do that. It's hard to explain but I needed the boost y'all gave me. It rewired how I view myself, for the better. Stories number 20. I-25F accidentally rejected my coworker friend 29M and I regret it. So I-25F just moved to this city and was honestly really grateful to have found a friend. My coworker 29M and I started getting close and he became my work best friend, having lunch and breaks together. Then eventually he started offering for me to come along to concerts, movies, etc. with his friends and the whole time it was quite friendly like I never got the vibe he was interested. We would even ride together sometimes and started going for runs together. We started sending each other reels or videos and just staying in touch throughout the day. Then he started coming over to my place because we started watching White Lotus together since we both liked it before so we thought oh let's watch it together. But throughout all this he never alluded to anything romantic. Never touched me or flirted. Introduced me to other people saying here's my friend. For my job I often have to stay late to set things up for the next day. He started gradually offering more and more to stay and help me even though our other coworkers would go for drinks. So he would leave himself out of things to help me. That's when I started getting the vibe. At some point I even broke down to him about how hard moving away from my family was for me. I told him how guilty I felt leaving my parents and missing valuable time with them and also how guilty I was about leaving my 11-year-old sister and missing milestones. I'm the oldest sister if you couldn't tell lol. He was so understanding and really talked me through it and helped me. Then one day he was helping me set up a conference room and I said why are you doing this? Like you are in no way obligated to do this, it has nothing to do with your job at all. He then kind of started opening the floodgates and said well when you like someone you do things for them. And I was like what? What do you mean? And he said well in case you couldn't tell I have feelings for you. And I was like baffled. I asked him since when? He said well I liked you from the moment I saw you. Which puzzled me even more like why not just ask me out from the start? And he said I guess I just wanted to get to know you first. Anyway then he said well do you want to go on a real date? And I kind of freaked out. My fear of commitment kicked in and I just reactively declined the date and said I don't think that's a good idea. I got really scared and anxious. I've always fled when something is about to become real. Then he just shut down and it was awkward and silent until we left. Well biggest regret because ever since then he hasn't engaged with me. It's been 2 days and he's avoiding me hard. No texts, no eye contact. I couldn't even find him at lunch. When I finally went up to him and said what about the date he said never mind don't worry about it and walked away. Did I miss my shot? Would he want me to push more about it? Because now that I've processed it and thought about what we could be I'm into it. Well if I'm being honest I always thought he was a great guy and exactly what I needed cause he is the more chill soft-spoken type and I love that cause I grew up with a very fiery dad with an extremely short fuse so I always dreamed of finding someone who is more on my wavelength. I mean there's a reason why we worked so well as friends but I just didn't really think he would see me like that like I didn't even let myself go there. I think I hurt his feelings by rejecting his date offer even though I didn't mean to. Do I still have a chance to fix this or does it seem like I've put him off being with me? TLDR, I freaked out when my coworker who has been my best friend for the past 7 months said that he had feelings for me and I freaked out and rejected him but I regret it and think he now is out off by reaction. Comments. Even though it wasn't on my mind before I am interested the more I sit on it. And yes I do miss my best friend as well. It's been really sad not talking to him. I was just caught off guard. I'm not good under pressure. I don't consider myself socially handicapped. It's just that the whole time we were friends he never made a move to touch me or flirt with me. The vibes coming from him were purely platonic, and since I was more focused on settling into a new city apartment job, I just didn't really have space in my brain to think of that. I shut him down without giving him any context as to why I did that. I should have been more communicative. Update. First of all, thanks everyone for the great advice, I really appreciate it. Well, the most common advice I got was to go and be honest and plan a date for him. So I wanted to do that, but in a more intimate setting, so I was feeling bold and got his favorite, Wingstop, and went to his apartment and just knocked. I would pay to have footage of the look on his face cause he was so taken aback, lol. Anyway, I said, do you mind if I come in? He was a bit hesitant, but he said yes. Then we sat and I explained everything that I said in this post. How I just freaked out cause I was taken aback and also scared. Scared about anchoring myself to a place away from my family, scared to lose my only friend, scared that the idea of having me would end up being better than actually having me. I told him that after having time to process the idea, I am very much into it and see all the ways we are great for each other. I told him how grateful I was for everything he has done for me. And that if I reacted negatively, it had nothing to do with him and everything to do with me. So when I finished my speech, he apologized. This man is too good for me. He was like, okay, I'm also sorry, I didn't mean to ice you out, I was just disappointed and needed a little time, and I would have eventually started speaking to you again, like I would still rather be your friend than not. And that was a big relief cause I saw comments of people saying, well, if he was just hanging out with you to get in your pants, then he's not your friend or he's immature ECT. Well, he proved that he's not and that he's great actually. Another thing is people said, well, if you didn't like him romantically at all, then you should just leave him alone or you just missed the attention. I genuinely just didn't even entertain the idea because the nature of our relationship was so platonic. In my brain I was just like, well, we're just friends. If he was interested he would have said so or shown it, flirted, or been more tactile. I just accepted that as the reality, so him saying he actually did like me was a complete surprise. Anyway, so we have officially decided to give it a go. We had a pretty deep convo about where we see our lives going, and it's very much in alignment with each other. I'm super happy but still fearful, I admit, but I just keep telling myself that if I don't try I'll regret it. I still have a date that I'm planning involving all of his favorite things that I'm working on in my back pocket cause I still feel like I have some making up to do. Oh, and we ended up kissing and it was great. Stories number 21. Aita for telling my coworker, I don't need to stop crocheting while on break BC they are there. This is my first time posting, sorry about the long post, but I need to get some different views on this, and plus sorry in advance, I am not a great speller, sorry if there are mistakes. 20F, starting to crocheting again after a year's break. And I am bring my projects to work and only crochets on my lunch rest breaks, and I have been doing this about 2 weeks now. Sometimes our lunch breaks line up with each, and most of the time everyone is on their phone or in their own place. I am usually crochet and listening to a podcast, watching a video, with my earphones in, and if someone wants to talk with me, I put my project down and take my earphones out, but if they don't, I am working on the project. I got this one co-worker, Mary, not her real name, mid-60s F, about 2 days ago. She came into the break room and I was already there and I am crocheting. When I saw her, I said hi and smile, then went back to my project. She sat down and was on her phone. About 10 minutes goes by and I feel a tap on my shoulder. I look up and I saw Mary, so I stopped crocheting and paused what I was listening to. I asked Mary what's up and she said it was rude to be crocheting while she was here. I am surprised as she is basically always on her phone and watching video, without earphones, so can hear what she is watching, which is usually Facebook Reels. I apologizes but said I am not stopping crocheting on my lunch breaks BC she is there. She got mad and complained to my manager about me. My manager said I am allowed to crochet on my breaks but I should be more aware on how rude it can be to others. Some of my other coworkers are on my side and others see Mary view. I have been staying away from Mary at the moment but I don't know. Relevant comments. On the manager. Commenter 1. And he didn't find it rude that someone bothers you on your personal time and tries to bully you into doing stuff for her? Reply. The manager, she is rarely there and quickly pushes compliant aside. I could be BC, I am younger than both of them, or she told me that, so Mary felt like she was heard. And plus we mainly reported to supervisors, who are more fair with this stuff, and plus I think if Mary does put something like this again I might go to the supervisors. Plus Mary probably told a very different story where I was crocheting and being rude. But I'll probably find out tomorrow. Commenter 2. Manager's role is to stand up for his employees. With that said, I saw quite a few who don't mind to throw his people under the bus, just to avoid that responsibility. If that's the kind of guy he is, my condolences, that is just the beginning, he will keep throwing you under the bus on more occasions. Otherwise, if I were you, I'd talk to him and explain how absurd the situation is. Reply. I am planning to do so, and if this happens again, I might need to go over her head to the higher ups. Top comment. Commenter 1. NTA. Mary totally is though. Crocheting on your break being rude is bullshit. I would go back to your manager and push back a little, why would crocheting, specifically, be ruder than listening to something on your phone having headphones in or whatever? The only thing I can imagine being an issue is that the movement is distracting, in which case, Mary can sit facing in another direction where your crochet is not in her direct line of sight. I would also point out the fact that she is playing her own stuff over her phone speakers, which is distracting to you unless you have your earphones in. I crochet, and tend to take easy stuff into work where I don't have to concentrate too hard on counting, which means I can talk and crochet at the same time. Normally, if people talk to me about it, they are expressing an interest, not telling me off about it. I suspect Mary is jealous that you can crochet and she can't, and given the sheer volume of free stuff out there to learn from, that is her problem and none of yours. Edit. Thank you everyone for being so nice and giving some advice on my problem. To give a little background, Mary and I joined working basically on the same day. We have been here around 2 months now. Mary is an okay coworker, most of the time, but she can be a bit old-fashioned, e.g., one of my co-workers goes by they them and Mary always misgender them. I am a little bit socially awkward sometimes, but I do get along with mostly everyone I work with. The break room is pretty small. It has one big table with about 8 chairs. Most people on break at the same time would be around 3 to 5 people, but I rarely have the same break time as Mary, as we both work in the same area. Plus, when I am listening to something, it is always low volume and I have one earphone out. The only time I put both earphones in is if someone is playing something from the phone speaker. I am sorry I can't reply to all of yours comments. I did not expect this much grinning face with sweat, but to answer some of the questions. I am planning to speak to manager about this. I'll be working tomorrow with Mary and I probably update if anything happens. Plus, crochet is quite uses one hook, as knitting uses 2 needles and makes the clicking clack sound. Plus, we work in a reception type of job. I hope this might clear things up. I am working tomorrow with her, and there is a high chance our breaks will line up together. So let's see how it go and I'll try to update you all. Update, this will probably be my only update. At work today, I was able to find my manager who was also with higher ups, so I told them my side of the story, and how I wished the manager handled better. The manager, she apologizes to me, TBH I think she did it BC. The higher ups were there, and later on at my lunch break, I was in the break room crocheting and Mary walked in. Now I don't know what happened beforehand, probably my manager higher up spoke to Mary, but Mary apologizes to me. Plus, just before I left work today, Mary's husband, let's call him Ian also works at the same place as I, as groundskeeper. He came up to me and apologizes for his wife as well. But if she does try something like this again, I will go to the higher ups. I am Australian, and I don't think we have a HR team at my job. Believe those reports go to management. By the way, I still don't know why she thought it was rude and I'll probably will never know. Thank you everyone for reading this. Stories number 22. So when are you opening your pool this year? Ever since one entitled neighbor had her family trespass on my property last year, my husband and I keep pretty quiet about when we will have our pool open and only tell those we trust. I made a post telling the story about the entitled neighbor. So you don't have to ask. Yes, my property has security cameras pointed around the yard, especially on the pool. Yesterday my husband was at the store buying supplies so we can start preparing our pool. One of our neighbors saw him and asked, so when are you opening the pool this year? My husband says, don't have a set date, but we'll see. After what happened last year we just might have it be family only. If we plan anything for a gathering we'll keep people posted. Entitled neighbor's brother who was shopping nearby suddenly acted entitled towards my husband, saying, you and your wife are so selfish. The prior residents in that house used to let the pool be open to any other house to come over as long as they watched their kids. My husband told him, look, we've had an uptick of wild animals crossing over our property the last couple of years. That's why we had a fence put up around the pool, and it's our private property. We don't have to always have people over, especially if we're not home. Then husband left. I'm not sure why the brother is now acting entitled. It's what got his sisters in trouble last year. Stories number 23. Aita for not inviting my boyfriend to my graduation dinner because of what he said to my dad. Hey Reddit, I didn't think this would get much attention, but thanks for all the responses. I read a lot of them, even the brutally honest ones, lol. A bunch of people asked for an update, so here we go. So after the whole graduation dinner situation, I gave Jake some space. I thought maybe he just needed time to cool off and think things through. I was still upset, but I genuinely hoped he'd come around, maybe even reach out to apologize to my dad. He didn't. Instead, the day after the dinner, he posted some cryptic IG story like black screen, white text, classic drama, saying something like, some people value performative loyalty over real love, face with rolling eyes, okay, philosopher. I ignored it. But then, my cousin, who was at the dinner and follows Jake, messaged me asking if everything was okay, because apparently Jake was replying to comments under that story with eye roll emojis whenever someone mentioned family or dads. At that point, I was like, what are we doing here? So I texted him one more time. I said, hey, I need to know where you stand. If you still think what you said wasn't a big deal and you don't want to apologize, then maybe this just isn't going to work. He read it. Didn't reply. Left me on read for 3 days. Then, out of nowhere, he sent me this long paragraph saying I clearly have unresolved daddy issues, and that he should have known I'd always prioritize the first man in my life over any future ones. Y'all. My jaw was on the floor. Not only was that wildly disrespectful, it proved exactly why I made the right choice. I told him we were done. Blocked his number. Told my friends what he said, and even the ones who thought I was being too harsh before were like, yeah no, he sucks. And my dad. He didn't even know half of this was happening, but when I told him, in a very PG way, he just said, you deserve someone who respects all of you including where you come from. Anyway. Single now. Degree in hand. Peace restored. And my dad and I went out for pancakes the next morning and laughed about how I almost invited a man who beefs with father figures to a family dinner. Thanks for the advice, Reddit. Some of y'all saved me from wasting more time. Stories number 24. My 31F brother-in-law, 37M, broke our children's heart by excluding them from a sleepover with their cousins. Do we go no contact? I was in the Navy for the last 8 years on the West Coast with my husband, 31M, and our 3 wonderful kids. When I decided to leave the Navy, I talked with my sister, Hannah, 38F, all time about living close so our kids can grow up with their cousins. They live in Florida. She was so excited. All of our children are active in sports, so everything sounded amazing. When we moved close, all that excitement vanished. My sister, 38F, and her husband, Sam, have 3 kids as well. For the record, no one likes Sam. They've been together forever and he's a controlling dick. Their family is extremely private. There is a whole backstory that would take too long to explain. Just trust me, said every Redditor ever. Since moving, we have seen them maybe once a month or less. Very brief visits. Mostly holidays or birthdays. Our children have been begging to have a sleepover. They had one last year and it was 10 p.m. at night after a play date. Sam's entire family lives here. When they show up for gatherings, they huddle off into areas of the house and stayed closed off. They gave our middle child a nickname, Fed, and they say it's just for shits and giggles, but my gut tells me that's bullshit. Fast forward to this weekend, I was talking to my dad, who lives in Nevada. It's through him I find out our nephews have been in so many sports that we knew nothing about. Celebrations, fun trips, a lot. Like we don't want to be up their ass and at every single thing, but at least give us the option to be included. We left what family we knew so our kids could grow up with their cousins. We live 20 minutes down the road and never hear or see them. To add insult to injury, Dad sent me pictures that Hannah sent him. They all have Sam's family in them. This weekend was also my oldest nephew's birthday. Family was in town so we got to see our nephews all weekend. Our kids had a blast. Every night they asked for a sleepover and, we are busy, we have plans, we have church. Right in front of us, Hannah and Sam made play date plans for their kids. We've been asking for over a year and it was that easy to do in front of us. If we ask to do anything, Hannah always says, you'll have to talk to Sam. Today was the party. My husband asked one of our nephews in passing, how was church this morning? Oh, we didn't go. So they lied to us and our kids, but we kept our mouths shut. The party was good until the end. Parents showed up with backpacks, pillows, and sleeping bags for kids who were at the party. I prayed my kids wouldn't see, but they did. Our kids ask if they can stay too. We had to tell them that they weren't invited. My youngest said, I'm gonna ask UNC Sam. Sam looks them dead in the eye and says, sorry. Friends only. My youngest is in shambles and cried. Like heartbreak. We immediately leave. As we are walking away with our sobbing child, one family member yells, "By Fed." I turned around and asked for clarification why they use it and I was told, it's just a joke. Our kids were so upset. All of them crying. My husband and I had to tell the kids it wasn't our fault, that they have lied to them and us about sleepovers all weekend and we've tried so many times for play dates and sleepovers. We didn't want our kids angry or upset with us. We felt they deserved to know the truth. WTF do I do? Hannah has always had Sam's back. But this has gone too fucking far. Do I try to talk to Hannah? Or just go no contact? I think Hannah feels trapped, so she goes along with everything Sam says. But she's a grown woman who can stand up to him and say no. Ick. I'm torn. Ick what to do. Ultimately, I need to protect my kids, I do know that, but God, I can't imagine the heartbreak they are going to feel when we tell them we aren't talking to them anymore. Stories number 25. Aita for crying when my boyfriend let his best friend's wife alter the dish I made for dinner. My boyfriend, 28M, and I, 22F, met at work 2 years ago. Technically I was working part-time during undergrad and he was a customer, but after a couple of months, we started going out. I really love this man and nothing has happened on this scale before, so I'm very confused about it. My BF has a very tight group of friends. I am well acquainted with them, and their girlfriends. One of them, Dave, just is married to Ellie, fake names. Ellie is an excellent cook and often hosts dinners, and everyone brings a dessert to those dinners. I am the youngest in the group, so most times they brush off my requests for contributing or bringing in a dessert. However, the last time I asked Dave and Ellie if they wanted anything extra like wine or some sweet dish for dinner, they said I could bring one of those sweet dishes I make for my boyfriend. I'm Indian, and even though I can't cook as well as my mom, and I'm in a different country for studies, I called my mom up and had her teach me properly how to make a specific Bengali sweet which is my favorite. I had my friends taste it and they said it was great. My boyfriend ate some and said it was excellent. Except, last night, I greeted Ellie and kept the dish in the kitchen. When the food was brought out and my boyfriend told everyone I made it, I saw that someone had added cinnamon powder to the sweet. You never have the sweet with cinnamon powder. The dessert tasted like cinnamon and I felt horrible. Though everyone said thank you and it was good, I think my face gave it away, and my boyfriend took me aside and said that Ellie had told him that my sweet looked too white and thought some cinnamon might bring some color into it. I don't know, I just felt awful and I started to tear up. My boyfriend then defended Ellie and said that his friends already think I'm a child and not make a big deal of this and we will talk about it. I told him Ellie asked him first, couldn't he have told her not to add cinnamon to the sweet? He told me he didn't think it was a big deal and asked me to drop the topic on the way home. I didn't text him goodnight and this morning he said he was sorry and said my crying made him feel like an awful person. I don't know, now I think I overreacted. Aita. Update, Ellie saw this post. My boyfriend texted me to see if it was me. I said yes. He said we needed to talk. For safety purposes, my best friend will be here. I don't know, I never expected my post to blow up. Update, Aita for crying when my boyfriend let his best friend's wife alter the dish I made for dinner. He said he needed space from the relationship. I think with the way this post blew up and what happened because of a post, I should clear up some things. I never asked if I should leave my boyfriend for this. I asked if this was an overreaction, my crying. But having thousands of people tell me this was racially charged, Ellie wanted power, my BF is shitty, etc., my brain went haywire. BF called yesterday and when I got there, his house, with my best friend, Dave and Ellie were there. Ellie was crying and Dave looked really pissed at me. My BF told me to sit down and Dave started with how could I make a post that most of the people in the dinner party would recognize and know, and could shame Ellie and my BF. My BF was silent, and wouldn't even look at me, and was only shaking his head. It felt like I was a kid, being scolded by my parents with my elder sibling disappointed in my actions. That is what I felt and it looked. I admit, it was very spineless of me, but Dave went on for like a minute and I was just looking at my BF waiting for him to defend me. I asked Ellie, why would she alter my dish, after telling me to bring an Indian dish? She said she thought Indian food would be brown. This woman has more Indian friends than me, and she thinks Indian food is brown. She grew up in the UK, FFs. And I felt so defeated. The comments, my friends, and people around me telling me his friends came first to him, not me. He said he didn't think the sweet was a big deal. I told him I would never let my friend alter something he spent 3 days learning, getting people to taste it and got his mom involved in. He saw I put a lot of effort into it, so why let her alter it? Why couldn't he ask me? Ellie started to cry and say that she wasn't being racist and she wouldn't know that I put effort into it and now she couldn't host dinners again. I said I used fake names, so why does it matter, unless she and Dave went around telling people. BF told me he didn't expect this from me. My best friend piped up that he expected that my BF would have a FING spine, so I guess they were both disappointed. My IG now EX, BF told me, in front of Dave and Ellie that he needs some space. I told him to get lost. I don't know what my best friend said to him after that, considering I left BF's flat. I kind of tripped in the metro station, so now I'm crying on my best friend's couch with an ice pack while his BF keeps giving me peach schnapps and my relationship has toppled over. I wouldn't have stormed out, had he looked at me once. He just looked 100% on Dave and Ellie's side, and acted like I was the one with the problem when she caused me hurt. If his friends come first when they cause me hurt, where would I have been, if I decided to marry this man? My friends are good to me and are acting like I'm some fragile glass. I even heard my best friend and his brother whispering loudly from the kitchen and his elder brother wanting to threaten him via Insta DMS. I hate that this has come to this, considering I have always been the mom friend to my friend group. I'm drunk while writing this, so have some grace in the comments. Also, if you'll be an incel like those people in my DMs, telling me I'll never keep a man if I'm this dramatic, please go away. I just thought I needed to update, that's it. Thanks guys. Edit. Guys, this is the first time I've faced what y'all have been calling racism. TBH, I didn't see Ellie putting cinnamon into my rosagala as racism. I was just hurt that my days of hard work was ruined, that's it. I understand I need to work on my self-esteem and not let people walk over me. My best friend's elder brother, he's a doctor and is super pissed at my ex-RN, because he didn't know what happened, booked an appointment with a therapist he knows, as he thinks I need mental help to not normalize aggressive behavior. I'm sorry for ranting on Reddit, but I guess that's where I am. Both my best friend and I will be going. He had been there for some time before, and the situation is tense at home because Dada, Bestie's brother, didn't know what was happening and tore my friends a new one for not protesting when Dave said shit to me. I still haven't told him it was over a Reddit post and that I'm writing here that I feel awful and I don't know how to tell my mom she was right. I wish I never went out with him. One of my ex's friends, from the dinner party, asked me if I really left my ex over a dessert, so I guess that's what he told people. It hurts, I know it shouldn't, but it hurts. I think it is partially my fault. I shouldn't have let myself be treated like this. There were signs and I ignored them. And now I think I'll never have another relationship because it feels like a horrible, anxious feeling. Update 2, Aita for crying when my boyfriend let his best friend's wife alter the dish I made for dinner. I'm again grateful for the barrage of supportive messages and chiding I've received from the internet after the cinnamon fiasco and my post causing a breakup. I am updating because I felt like I should just update about recent events, and honestly, after just more than 2 weeks I have started to feel good about myself, even though I feel like shit whenever I remember my ex. I really hope I can put this whole thing to rest and I don't have to update again, for my sanity. Firstly, my ex called a few times last week. I had blocked him earlier, literally like 2 days after breaking up, and whenever he called my friends they wouldn't pick up either. I wanted to handle this matter gracefully, and unlike what some people commented, no, I did not want my issues all over the internet and did not understand what was happening. I just wanted some advice on how to deal with my emotions and didn't want my friends to be mad at my then BF. Thankfully, the trash took itself out. I still don't know if Ellie was racially motivated or if she just hated me. I don't even care now. I don't want a man who makes his friends scold me and humiliate me. I know I deserve to be at least somebody's first choice. Ex came by at my best friend's flat. I don't live there, and from what I heard from my bestie's boyfriend, he said he was very sorry and he now felt like I didn't deserve to be treated like that. He had thought, when he broke up with me, that I was overreacting and it was just a small thing I made a big deal out of. But then a few of his friends explained to Ellie that it definitely was a horrible thing to do, and told my ex he was a shit BF. Huh. Who knew he had nice friends too? Ex didn't say anything more after that. Just he was sorry and he said he doesn't want more hurt between us. I have decided to not contact him. I'm just done. A lecture from my mother on dating idiot men and crying every night for over a week has made me lethargic, and on top, I am fending off Dada, Bestie's elder brothers, insisting that I move in with them for some time because I'm not eating well. My dad said it's okay if I do. My family trusts my bestie and his family a lot. Needless to say, my work and studies are suffering. I haven't heard from Ellie or Dave and I don't intend to. The person who asked me if I left my ex over a desert, I told her what happened and she was appalled. I don't know what she told my ex, for him to apologize. Honestly, I'm so done with that group shit. I went to one therapy session and I didn't feel good. I know I have to keep going for it to actually help me, but I can't help feeling so down. I have never been so emotionally low in my life and I am officially not dating for the foreseeable future. I am planning a trip with friends after my final semester of my master's and I really hope I don't bring the mood down, for my friends who have been so supportive and have always made me feel I have family, even though I'm away from home. I don't know what I would have done without having my best friend and his boyfriend, who keep telling me to drink the pain away, and Dada keeps on talking about the negative effects of becoming an alcoholic. Overall, I'm closing this chapter, and I don't think I'll need to update again. I'm not ever talking again to Dave and Ellie or my ex, so I don't expect any more drama. I just want to settle down to work and graduate properly. Update 3, Aita for crying when my boyfriend let his best friend's wife alter the dish I made for dinner. I think by now I should probably put all this in the back burner, but remembering how it was Reddit who got me out of a shitty relationship, I just wanted to make a last final update. I'm doing well. I went to therapy after it, quit it in a few weeks, and 2 months later went back again. I'm working on building a spine when it comes to my loved ones. Turns out even my mom telling me, "I told you so," every time I made a mistake, even though she is wonderful and didn't do it on purpose, has made some stupid issues in my head, in which I need to please every person whom I like. As for my ex, I haven't seen him, he stopped coming to the store, and around a month after my breakup I quit anyways, and for the first time in my life I made it clear to mutual acquaintances that if they took his side, I'm done. I am young, and there are a lot more good people I'll meet in life, so I won't mind losing a few ones who condone such racist behavior. And yes, I have realized that their behavior was racially charged, maybe it was ignorance, maybe my ex wanted the exotic bird, I don't care. I have made peace with the fact that some people will be assholes no matter what. I have heard nothing from Dave or Ellie and good riddance for that. I don't want to know, and I have decided to protect my peace not knowing. Apart from that, I graduated. Went on a solo trip to Italy, moved to a new place, my roommate is a friend from grad school I get along very well, and am focusing on my work and my friends. My best friend and his boyfriend are still going strong. Dada thanks the heavens every day I didn't turn into an alcoholic. Life is good. I don't think I'll update after this. Just wanted to say a final thank you.